Upon your reincarnation, you discover that you possess the cultivation base of the great vehicle stage, yet you find yourself tightly bound by a group of mortal women. Even a lowly servant at the chi refining stage, standing by her side, dares to shout at you. They not only covet your cultivation, but also slander you, accusing you of infidelity. Witnessing this scene, you cannot help but laugh. Since when has the cultivation world needed to resort to reason to convince others? At this moment, you are reflecting on the memories of this lifetime. At age 3, you had already reached the great vehicle stage. Across all of Yu province, the number of great vehicle experts could be counted on one's fingers. Beyond your cultivation, you have the Yi clan backing you, the most powerful family in all of Yu province. With influence so vast, you actually entered into an engagement with a mortal woman, and even swore an oath upon your heart demon, claiming that if you were to break your promise, you would surrender your entire cultivation to her. The more you review these memories, the more ridiculous they seem. You shake your head, rise, and leap through the attic window. Standing proudly between heaven and earth, you take a deep breath to steady your emotions. This world is truly governed by a bunch of fools. Today this master shall teach you the true rules of the cultivation world. As you step into the air, your face is filled with arrogance. The secret chamber where you were in seclusion is suddenly kicked open. A woman rushes in and begins to shriek, "Ye Huangtian, get out here right now. We are being bullied to the point of humiliation, yet you refuse to lift a finger to help. Second uncle has been detained at the tavern. Will you help him or not?" You narrow your eyes, staring at the woman who burst into your chamber, your mind filled with countless questions. How could she be so bold? A chi refining stage cultivator daring to storm the seclusion chamber of a great vehicle stage expert? The woman finally notices you standing on the attic balcony and immediately crosses her arms, her face filled with malicious glee. "I heard you achieved a breakthrough to the great vehicle stage. As for our family's minor affairs, you will help whether you want to or not, or this marriage is annulled. I will certainly tell my sister that you stood by and refused to assist. You had better help. Consider yourself fortunate that you know your place. Remind yourself of your station. That man is your future uncle. To offend him will not end well for you." As those words fell, the smile in your eyes vanished instantly, leaving behind only bone-chilling cold. You have dominated the battlefield for thousands of years. A title of Immortal Venerable, so feared that even mortal children cease their weeping at the mere mention of it. Both the righteous and demonic paths tremble at your name. Never before has an ant at the chi refining stage dared to act so brazenly as to lead the way before you. After uttering 2 words, you followed her out the door, glancing at the cultivators standing guard at the entrance. Seeing that you had just broken through, these men offered only a perfunctory sneer, as if nothing of importance had occurred. A powerhouse at the great vehicle stage was in seclusion, seeking a breakthrough, yet they neglected their duties, allowing a mere key-refining weakling to intrude and cause chaos. Had you been disturbed during your breakthrough, your Tao foundation would have shattered completely. That these men dared to sneer derelict in their duty is a crime worthy of death. The moment the word "die" left your lips, golden fluid poured from the 7 orifices of those men, and with a dull thud they collapsed to the ground, breath leaving their bodies instantly. Chaos erupted behind you immediately, as people cried out in terror to alert the elders. The girl leading the way heard the commotion and asked, "You are blocking my path. What has happened? Move aside, do not obstruct my way." You chuckled, then raised your hand to seize her throat, lifting her entire body off the ground. "What did you just say?" She kicked and struggled violently, yet she could not withstand even a fraction of your spiritual energy. "Ye Huangtian, you dare to bully the weak. Are you not afraid of the world's scorn?" You smiled even more brightly, "Pardon me, but the very purpose of this Venerable's cultivation is to bully the weak." Before the words had faded, the forbidden soul-seizing technique was unleashed, ruthlessly extracting every memory from her mind. Her gaze became vacant instantly, and she collapsed to the ground, reduced to a mere simpleton. You brushed off your hands, as if you had just touched something filthy. Glancing through the memories you had just plundered, you saw the Tianxing wine house. That uncle of hers, Lin Gaiyu, had not a single copper coin in his pouch, yet he dared to splurge at the most expensive wine house in Yu Prefecture, clearly banking on this infatuated original host to arrive and settle the bill. A clever calculation indeed. You took a step into the void, heading straight for the Tianxing wine house, and blending into the crowd, you watched for a long while as the drunken Lin Gaiyu caused a scene. Along with gaining a clear understanding of the geography, the factions of Yu province, and the information regarding the various powerhouses, this knowledge was far more comprehensive than the memories of mere romance and trivialities that previously filled the original owner's mind. Just as you were about to leave, a nascent soul stage handmaiden in green robes walked quickly toward you, stopping right before you. "Young Master Yi, the family has issued an order for you to return immediately." The moment the words "Young Master Yi" were uttered, the entire tavern fell into immediate silence. Everyone gathered around, eager to witness the spectacle. Lin Gaiyu, intoxicated and reeking of alcohol, fumbled for a wine jar before pointing a finger at the waiter and shouting, "Do you see that? That is my grandson-in-law. Just collect the tab from him." The waiter hurriedly rushed to your side, bowing obsequiously as he spoke. "Young Master Yi, his total bill comes to 370,000 taels of silver. Your table is 2 taels. The grand total is 372 taels." You chuckled, produced 2 taels of silver from your storage ring, and placed them gently upon the table. The waiter stood there stunned and asked, "Young Master Yi, this amount is incorrect, is it not? I did not drink his wine, nor have I ever agreed to settle his debts. Why are you looking for me? Is my table not exactly 2 taels of silver? 370,000 taels. Was the old man born inside a wine vat?" The waiter's face turned pale instantly, and he turned to summon the manager. The manager approached, glanced at the hopelessly intoxicated Lin Guyu, and without a word, brought up the marriage contract to leverage his position. "Young Master Yi, it is well known that you and his granddaughter are betrothed." You interrupted him coldly. "That was once the case, but it shall be so no longer." The manager's expression shifted immediately. Who in the city did not know that this young master of the Yi family was hopelessly infatuated with the Lin family? In the past, whenever the Lin family caused a disturbance, he would accept responsibility for every debt they incurred. How could the world have turned upside down today? He slammed the table and roared, "Stop feigning ignorance. He is your kin. If I do not look for you, who am I to look for? Do you intend to default on this debt?" You let out a cold laugh and rolled up your sleeves, then threw a punch, causing golden light to spill directly from the manager's mouth, sending him flying backward to crash into a pillar, leaving him gasping for his final breaths as you fully... Every person in the tavern was forced to the ground, trembling violently, unable to even lift their heads. With a flick of your finger, a surge of spiritual energy kept the manager alive. You spoke coldly. He drank the wine, so he must pay for it. Is that not correct? The manager's mouth was filled with golden liquid as he frantically nodded his head. Yes, 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 yes. You turned your head toward Lin Guyu and withdrew your overwhelming pressure. He was finally able to open his mouth, screaming directly in your face, frantically brandishing his marriage contract to threaten you. His profanities were endless, and you could not be bothered to listen. You used your spiritual energy to lock onto his throat, turned to the manager, and asked, "If he has no money, what should we do?" The manager was completely dumbfounded, unable to utter a single word for a long moment. You smiled. "This venerable one shall uphold justice for you. If he cannot produce the money, how about 31,000 taels to pay for his life?" The manager's mind went blank. Before he could react, a colossal cauldron descended from the heavens, instantly crushing the spot where Lin Guyu stood. A dark gold essence immediately seeped out from beneath the cauldron, causing the manager to vomit in terror on the spot. You nonchalantly withdrew the spiritual energy that was sustaining the manager's life. His body went limp, and he died instantly. You glanced around the room, your voice cold and detached. "Lin Guyu has paid his wine debt with his life. My 2 taels of silver have been settled. All of you here are witnesses." Having finished, you looked down at the maid trembling violently on the ground and spoke indifferently. "What business does the family have with me?" The maid raised her head to look at you, her face deathly pale, her lips shivering. "Young master, please return with me quickly. Miss Lin has brought witnesses to the family's ancestral hall to accuse you of infidelity." You laughed aloud upon hearing this. A mere mortal with no cultivation dares to seek you out and cause trouble? Where are they? At the family ancestral hall. In the next moment, you had already arrived at the Yi family ancestral hall with the maid in tow. Inside the hall, 36 Yi family elders, 365 hall masters, the family head and his spouse, and even the supreme elder who held real power were all present. A crowd of over 500 people stood in somber silence surrounding Lin Shuling, who was wailing bitterly. She was the very same mortal fiancé of the original body. Lin Shuling knelt on a cushion, gasping for air as she wept. Seeing you walk in, her cries became even more heart-wrenching. "Family head Yi, you must seek justice for me. Ye Huangtian is bullying me too much. He claimed his love was stronger than gold and stone, yet he secretly seduced another woman." With a sharp snap, you unfurled your folding fan. Facing more than 500 people alone, there was not a hint of fear on your face as you calmly spoke. "I heard that someone is slandering me." You took a single step and glided before Lin Shuling, casting a glance at her from head to toe, and let out a cold laugh. "Your beauty is nothing more than this. You look truly unsightly when you weep." This single sentence caused an instant uproar in the ancestral hall. The elders slammed their hands on the tables and rose to their feet, pointing their fingers directly at you as they berated you, calling you shameless. Accusing you of breaking the marriage pact, they demanded you apologize to Lin Shuling immediately. More than 300 hall masters joined in the clamor, shouting for you to be severely punished, even going so far as to call for your master to be held accountable. As the deafening roars of insults washed over you, you did not even bother to blink. With a sharp snap, you closed your fan. Your voice, imbued with spiritual energy, instantly silenced the chaos. To make such accusations without proof, where are your witnesses and evidence? As soon as you finished speaking, a man at the Foundation establishment stage immediately knelt, shouting at the top of his lungs, "I am a witness." His name was Sun Haran. He turned to the Supreme Elder to pledge his loyalty, declaring that 3 days ago he had seen you go to the Feng Yu brothel and stay at the Gaian Pavilion with a woman for an entire day and night. He even dared to point toward the heavens and swear an oath. The Supreme Elder flew into a rage on the spot, brandishing his staff and cursing you as a beast, demanding your death as an atonement. Your father, the patriarch of the Yi family, Ye Yan, immediately stood up to intervene. "Wait a moment. You have a witness, but where is the physical evidence?" Sun Horan, having been long prepared, immediately produced 2 items. The reservation register from the Feng Yu brothel, which bore your name, along with a handkerchief stained with golden specks. The Supreme Elder caught sight of the handkerchief and roared in agony, lamenting that the Yi family was truly unfortunate to have birthed a wretch like you. The elders and hallmasters were once again consumed by fury, clamoring for your blood, demanding your severe punishment, and insisting that you pay for your sins with your life. Seizing the momentum, the Supreme Elder turned his hostility toward Yi Yan, scolding him for raising such a rebellious son despite being the family head, and pressuring him to resign from his position as patriarch within 3 days, and replace himself with me. Yi Yan's face turned deathly pale. He had no choice but to kneel on one knee and admit his fault. Standing below, you see through it all. This old man is not interested in justice. He is merely using this opportunity to usurp power within the Yi family. As for Lin Shuling, what she truly desires is your Mahayana realm cultivation. The two of them have colluded to weave this intricate trap, setting the stage as early as 6 months ago, waiting for the love-struck original owner to walk right into it. Just as expected, the Supreme Elder suppresses Ye Yan, then turns his gaze toward you with an expression of feigned righteousness. Ye Huangtian, since you have broken your vow, you must honor it. Surrender your entire cultivation to Lady Lin Shuling. I myself shall oversee the process. You yawn and let out a soft chuckle. A well-laid plan, indeed. Lin Shuling abruptly stands up, glares at you with a frigid expression, and speaks as if delivering a verdict. I have no interest in your cultivation. I only wish to make you understand. Do not think that just because you have a bit of power, you can act however you please. I do not like you. From beginning to end, I have never once liked you. Had it not been for your coercion back then, how could I have ever become betrothed to a degenerate like you? As soon as those words leave her lips, you break into laughter and applaud. Very good, truly excellent. This rehearsed script is identical to the one she used back when she would spend the original owner's money on luxury items, claiming she didn't care for the gifts, insisting that they were merely tokens of the love you held for her. It is exactly the same. If the love-struck original owner were here today, his Dao heart would undoubtedly shatter on the spot. Obediently surrender your entire cultivation. Seeing your silence, Lin Shuling takes a step forward and snaps, "You should be handing over your cultivation to me now." You cross your arms and calmly reply, "No, are you trying to renege on our deal?" Lin Shuling's expression shifts instantly. How can one who lacks integrity stand tall in this world? What has been promised must be fulfilled. Even I understand such a simple principle. The elders begin to chime in, denouncing you as a man devoid of honor, shaming the Yi family, and pressuring you to surrender your cultivation immediately. The Supreme Elder becomes even more vitriolic, every word dripping with sarcasm, clearly wishing he could cripple you on the spot. You simply stand there, listening to their bickering for the better part of an hour, until a crimson silhouette streaks in from the horizon. Only then, it has arrived. Your predecessor's master, the void-refining realm cultivator, Fairy Guzi, descended upon the ancestral hall alongside 2 of her disciples. Her very first words were a lethal blow. Ye Huangtian, as my direct disciple, you have broken your vows and acted with infidelity. Neither heaven nor earth can tolerate you. All my 10 years of diligent instruction have been in vain. A long sword flew from her sleeve, plunging directly into the blue stone slab at your feet. Her cold, detached voice echoed downward, carrying an indisputable air of majesty. End your own life. You looked up at the heavens and laughed aloud, laughing until your chest heaved, a laughter of absolute, unbridled liberation. Truly, this was the final trump card. First, they conspired to strip you of your authority, weaving a trap to trick the original body into willingly surrendering his cultivation. In the end, even your most trusted master, Fairy Guzi, appeared in person with sword in hand, every word she spoke intended to claim your life. Your frantic mad laughter left the entire gathering frozen in place. Could it be that this boy has been pushed to the brink of insanity? Just as you were about to reach your breaking point, Lin Shuling suddenly lunged forward, shielding you from the tip of the blade. You narrowed your eyes slightly. Has she had a change of heart? Or has she finally seen through the machinations of this situation? The very next moment, she turned towards you and reached out her hand, her face devoid of any sorrow, replaced only by a cold, arrogant sense of entitlement. Come now, cultivation is not important. What matters is your attitude. Even if you forced this engagement back then, I have always given you chances. It is you who failed to grasp them. I once gave you my heart, and it is you who betrayed me. This cultivation is the compensation you must pay me, a punishment for your lack of integrity. You are at death's door, yet you still refuse to admit your fault? You spat, letting out a mocking laugh. Indeed, old habits die hard. Despite all her righteous and noble rhetoric, it was merely a ploy to reap rewards without effort, intending only to swallow your cultivation whole. At that moment, Fairy Guzi slowly descended, offering a few words of gentle comfort to Lin Shuling, before turning to glare at you, barking orders with harsh authority. Surrender your cultivation as compensation for Shuling. Shuling and Sun Horan were childhood sweethearts. If it were not for your interference, how could they have been separated for so long? You are only losing a single life in your cultivation, but what Shuling lost was a true, sincere love. This is the final lesson I shall teach you. If you do not wish to preserve your dignity, your master will ensure it is stripped away for you. Before her words had even faded, she swung her sword and lunged toward you like a bolt of lightning. The elders of the Yi family erupted into an uproar. One after another, they joined the chorus of shouting, hurling foul and venomous insults at you. Regardless of how they phrased it, their demand remained the same. Surrender your cultivation and take your own life to atone for your crimes. Watching this farce, you no longer had any interest in playing along. With a flicker of your figure, you instantly appeared before the family head Ye Yan. So many people wish to see me dead. Do you share their desire? Ye Yan clenched his fists, grinding his teeth as he sent a telepathic message to you. How could I ever bring myself to kill my own son? It's just that the public outcry has become too overwhelming. I truly have no other choice. I will plead for your life in a moment. Before he could finish, the mistress beside him suddenly sprang up, pointing a finger directly at your face while screaming a torrent of abuse, continuously screeching that only your death could restore peace to the Yi family. You raised an eyebrow and flicked your finger, causing her to instantly freeze in place. Unable to move, you looked back toward Yi Yan. Are you truly so helpless to resolve this situation? Yi Yan lowered his head, his voice choked with emotion. It is your father who is incompetent. You suddenly smiled. Then I shall spare you from death. Having said that, you turned to face the bickering elders below and flicked your hand into the air. The so-called evidence, the handkerchief stained with golden light, instantly turned to ash, vanishing without a trace. Now who can tell me where the evidence is? The entire hall fell deathly silent. Supreme Elder Gu Sutianyun's face turned pale with rage, and he bellowed in a stern, furious voice, You have openly resorted to underhanded tricks. Even if the physical evidence is gone, the witnesses remain. You still cannot escape death. You smiled indifferently and pointed toward the heavens, as the 9 heavens' profound kill transformed into divine thunder, and the might of the heavens billowed forth. As your words fell, dark clouds gathered across the sky without warning. A gale-force wind swept across the earth. A single bolt of terrifying thunder crashed down with a deafening roar. Blinding light flashed, and the thunderous boom deafened everyone present. The air was instantly filled with the scent of ozone and scorched earth. Your cold, detached voice resonated once more, striking terror into the heart of every soul present. Now I ask you once more, where are you? Lin Shuling suddenly turned and pointed to the spot where Sun Haran had stood, her voice sharp. Sun Haran was her witness. Yet, after calling his name twice, she discovered that where Sun Haran had been standing moments ago, only a pile of ash remained, not even his shadow was left. No, Sun Haran, she lunged toward the pile of ashes like a madwoman, her entire being instantly collapsing in despair. The Supreme Elder's complexion turned a ghastly, murderous shade. He had never imagined that you would dare to destroy the physical evidence and kill the witness right before his eyes. This was a blatant display of total disregard for his authority. Where are the elders of the Hall of Law? Seize Ye Huangtian immediately, hold him for questioning, and set a date for his execution. Guqi Xianzi's expression was dark enough to drip water. She rebuked you sternly. Not only do you refuse to confess your crimes, but you dare to openly harm others. Today you shall pay for this with your life. She suddenly leaped into the air, unleashing the treasured sword in her hand. The sword's edge instantly transformed into 10,000 streams of energy, plummeting towards you like a torrential storm. With a single glance, you identified the unique quality of her spiritual essence. The profound slaying body, a top-tier unique constitution perfect for dual cultivation. To simply destroy it like this would be a true pity. Before the sword's edge could draw near, your spiritual energy manifested into a massive seal, instantly grabbing Gusi from the air and slamming her violently onto the ground before planting your foot firmly upon her back. You have taught me many rules. To repay you, I shall teach you one thing. In the face of absolute power, all rules are nothing but worthless drivel. With a slight exertion of force, golden light surged from Gusi's mouth, her vision dimmed, and she immediately lost consciousness. Between the void refining stage and the great completion stage, the vast chasm between these two major realms, dealing with her was a certainty for you. The corner of your mouth curled upward as you scanned the entire assembly. Next was the Supreme Elder Gu Sutianyun, who bellowed in a stern voice, accusing you of severely wounding your mentor, betraying the ancestors, and acting with such treachery and dishonesty that you would surely be reviled by all under heaven. Bang! Before his words could even fade, his body exploded and dissolved into nothingness. You cleaned your ear and blew lightly on your fingertip. What was that you just said? I said I am innocent. Since none of you spoke, I shall take your silence as an admission of guilt. Who is next? An elder suddenly sprang to his feet, pointing a trembling finger at you. He roared, You have wounded others and openly violated the laws of the Yu Prefecture. We shall report this to the Heaven Phoenix dynasty. You nodded and walked away slowly. That elder was stunned in place. You sighed softly, and as that aura swept past, his entire body instantly turned into a stone statue. The remaining elders in the hall felt their scalps tingle, each of them lowering their heads, not daring to even breathe loudly. You flicked your finger, and several more elders who had been speaking ill behind your back were turned into stone. I myself have already given you the chance to speak. Yet you persist in gossiping behind my back. Could it be that I have not been merciful enough toward you all? The entire assembly trembled, and no one dared to respond. You let out a cold laugh. It seemed they were not convinced in their hearts. One elder scrambled to his feet, forcing a stiff, fawning smile onto his face. He hurriedly chimed in, Everything you say is correct. These people deserve their deaths. I implore you to calm your anger. You nodded, casually removed Guzi's storage ring and tossed it to him. Since you understand the situation, I shall reward you. The position of Supreme Elder is now yours. That elder was completely dumbfounded, so shocked that he even forgot to pick up the ring meant for a Supreme Elder. That was a position with the authority to suppress the clan head, and yet it was obtained just like that. What is the matter? Do you not want it? A single sentence pulled him back to reality. Terrified, his legs gave way and he knelt down instantly. He picked up the ring, his entire body trembling, repeatedly shouting his agreement. You glanced across the remaining people and spoke indifferently. Now that both the witnesses and the evidence are gone, do their accusations against me still hold any weight? Everyone immediately shouted in unison, "They are invalid, they are void." You smiled. You raised a hand and pointed toward Lin Shuling, who was sobbing uncontrollably below. I recall Gu Zi saying earlier that she and Sun Horan were childhood sweethearts, their bond deeper than gold. Now that Sun Horan is dead, should she not follow him in death to demonstrate true unwavering devotion? Is that not the case? A chill ran down the spines of everyone in the hall. No one dared to answer. Lin Shuling finally regained her senses from the collapse, looking at you while shaking violently in terror. She suddenly dropped to her knees, crawling dozens of meters until she reached your feet. Her voice trembled, barely audible, as she claimed, "He and I have no affection for one another. My heart has always belonged only to you. It was they who forced me. I am but a weak woman, and I had no choice but to comply. Huangtian, will you not spare me just this once? About our engagement, let us marry at once. I consent to be your wife." She hurriedly retrieved a ring, holding it up before you, pleading with a desperate, coaxing tone. Yet her deathly pale face and eyes wide with terror had already betrayed her utter panic. You took your seat directly upon the master's chair, watching the struggle of these lowly ants with great amusement. She continued to weep, beg, repeating incessantly that she loved you, pleading for mercy. You laughed aloud, mocking her. "It is useless for you to love me, for I do not love you in return. Besides, the person I love is the world itself. You are unworthy." Lin Shuling was instantly struck dumb, forgetting even how to cry. At that very moment, a sound transmission reached her. "Break off the engagement and keep acting. Your death is guaranteed." Clinging to this as if it were a lifeline, she wailed, "I break off the engagement. I shall do it now. I beg you, spare my life." You raised an eyebrow slightly, granted. A smile of relief immediately spread across Lin Shuling's face, as if she had escaped death. But before the smile could fade, you reached out and gripped her slender throat. She struggled frantically, her eyes filled with disbelief. "Why, you clearly gave your word." "Spare me." The corners of your mouth curled upward, your tone indifferent. "I only granted your request to break off the engagement. I never promised to let you live. Besides, your lover is gone. Should I not see you two reunited in the afterlife?" You applied force with your palm, and her struggling form instantly went limp. You tossed the remains aside carelessly. The entire Ye family hall fell into absolute silence, none daring to move, terrified that one misstep would cost them their lives. Having dealt with the ill-fated lovers, you brushed your hands together and turned to look at Ye Yan beside you. "Oh, as for this position of family master, I'll be taking it." Ye Yan had yet to recover from the initial shock. He nodded blankly, repeatedly agreeing, and immediately set about arranging the succession ceremony. You glanced at him and remarked that if he did not hand it over, you would take it by force yourself. "Rest assured, as long as you are obedient, this seat will not lay a hand on you. But if you fail in your duties, it shall be a lesson on a father's failure to discipline his son." Yi Yan's entire body shuddered, and he nodded with even greater fervor. You waved your hand, summoning Gu Xi's flying sword to you, and with a flick of your finger the blade shattered into fragments, pulverizing the stone statues that the elders had been turned into. Infusing your voice with spiritual energy, it poured directly into the ears of all present, shaking their very souls. As you declared, "This seat now assumes the position of the Yi family head. Who is in favor? Who is opposed?" "I am in favor." I raise both my hands and feet in agreement. "For young Master Yi to become the family head is the greatest honor of our Yi family." The elders immediately changed their tune, shouting louder than anyone else. No one dared to object, for before them stood a ruthless individual without peer. "Who is opposed?" That person vanished. A maid carrying a teacup approached you respectfully. Congratulating you on ascending to the position of family head, you snatched the teacup from the air while lightly nudging the unconscious Gu Zi on the ground with your toe. "The profound body, see that she is well cared for, and bring her to my residence." The maid trembled from head to toe, hurriedly bowing her head in compliance. "Understood," you said, sipping your tea leisurely. Below, the elders and hallmasters stood waiting, not even daring to breathe too loudly. After 2 hours passed without a single word of dissent, you nodded in satisfaction. "Hallmasters, hear my command. Spare no cost and stop at nothing to reclaim all the land seized from the Yi family. If they are not recovered by tonight, then have the juniors of your households." Leaving these words behind, you rose and departed. The moment you left, the people within the great hall erupted into chaos. The head of the discipline hall, Fu Sha, pushed his way against the crowd. He pulled the law hall elder, Gan Yun, aside. Lowering his voice, he spoke of grim news. "The guards outside Ye Huangtian's secret chamber, along with Lin Shuling's younger sister and second uncle, have all gone missing. It must be your doing." As soon as Gan Yun heard your name, his entire body trembled. He hurriedly covered Fu Sha's mouth and gestured for him to remain silent. If they are gone, they are gone. They were not significant figures anyway. Not until they had exited the great hall did Gan Yun dare to send a voice transmission to him, recounting the entire incident of you purging the courtyard before the ancestral hall, and ultimately leaving him with a final warning. "If you wish to keep your life, whatever Ye Huangtian says, obey it. Remember this. Do not offend him." Having said this, Gan Yun did not look back and strode away. He had to rush to recover the lands. Were he a moment too slow, his life would be forfeit. Fusha stood frozen in place, his face filled with bewilderment. Ye Huangtian was merely a spineless coward. Where did he find the courage to harm others? If you will not tell me, I shall find someone else to ask. Leveraging the convenience of his position, he inquired into everything that had transpired today, and without a moment's hesitation, he departed the Yi family residence. He raced with all speed toward the Tianfeng dynasty, intent on reporting the assault and theft. This was a capital crime. Once reported to the imperial court, someone would naturally be sent to apprehend you. When that time came, he would be the great hero who saved the Yi family from the depths of disaster. Meanwhile, you were leaning back in the master's chair within the Yi family hall, waving your hand casually as countless light screens manifested before you. Within them were records of how Ye Yan had handled affairs within the clan. You wished to clarify matters before proceeding with the land recovery. Just where were the Yi family's lands? You might as well see if there was anyone within the Yi family with a sharp mind. A soft grunt echoed as you lifted your eyes to look at the maid who was dragging the recently awakened Guzi. She tossed her roughly to the floor. Reporting to the young master, she has regained consciousness. You appraised her with great interest, then asked what their plans were. Do you know? Gucci spat onto the ground, her eyes glaring at you with such ferocity it seemed she wished to swallow you whole, shouting and demanding that you surrender your cultivation, lest you be reviled by all. She further declared that a true gentleman must walk an upright path, for without reputation even the highest cultivation is meaningless. You scoffed, finally understanding why the original owner of this body had been so dim-witted. What kind of decent disciple could a master so detached from the realities of the world possibly raise? You lowered your head, continuing to examine the records on the table, and offhandedly remarked, "Go and ask them yourself. Who is truly in the right and who is in the wrong regarding today's events?" The servants nearby instantly broke out in a cold sweat, hurriedly speaking up to advise Goose, saying, "She has been manipulated by others. You have done nothing wrong. They possess neither witnesses nor physical evidence. They are merely casting baseless aspersions." Goose stood frozen in place, her face a mask of utter disbelief. You had destroyed the witnesses and evidence right before everyone's eyes? Were they all blind? At that very moment, she caught sight of Tanhai lying behind the pillar. Her entire body shuddered, and she immediately roared at you. "Ye Huangtian, will you ever stop this? Injuring people? Always injuring people. Aside from violence, what else do you even know how to do?" Before you could even open your mouth, a servant, already incensed, shouted at her, demanding if she intended to poison the minds of the crowd and bring death upon them all. Before he even finished speaking, he swung his hand and struck Goose across the face, his voice echoing, "Who gave you permission to be disrespectful in front of the Yi family head?" Gucci clutched her face, completely dazed. She could not fathom that while she was clearly trying to help these people discern right from wrong, they chose to side with a cruel villain like you, and even went so far as to strike her. Why are you helping a tyrant? He is a man who acts with malice. Why will you not stand with me? He is merely a cultivator at the great completion stage. If we join forces, we can surely... Before she could finish, the servant, having reached his breaking point, kicked her to the ground and began to pummel her relentlessly as if he had lost his mind. He roared, purging the terror he felt after seeing his companions purged, venting his frustration over a single slip of the tongue and the suffocating silence he had been forced to endure all this time. Only when he could no longer lift his arms did he stop, turning his head toward you. The ferocity on his face vanished in an instant, replaced by a fawning expression as he dropped to his knees with a thud. "Do you require further instruction from this humble servant?" You smile faintly, noting that for a mere chi condensation realm cultivator to be instructed by one in the void refinement realm is a privilege reserved only for those who serve at your side. The servant's face lights up with joy, and he pledges repeatedly that he desires nothing more than to follow you. Whomever you command him to face, he shall strike. You carelessly toss him a spirit stone as a reward. He scrambles for it as if possessed, kowtowing toward you repeatedly in gratitude. Acknowledging his display of devotion, you withdraw your gaze and turn toward the figure kneeling on the ground, Gusi, whose entire body is trembling as if she has something to say. She lowers her head, her voice thick with hatred. "What kind of monster have I raised? You hold human life in such contempt, turning black into white, unable to distinguish right from wrong, fueled by a bloodthirsty nature." You arch an eyebrow. A single sentence is enough to leave her speechless, trapped by her own flowery rhetoric. What is this? Are you attempting to sit for the imperial examinations? Guji is stunned, and all the vitriol she had prepared to unleash dies in her throat. You rub your chin and speak slowly. "Clean this place up. Tonight, you shall serve this venerable one closely. Consider it your honor." Gucci's complexion turns deathly pale and she retreats in panic, shouting firmly, "Do not touch her." Seeing this, the servants clamor, pinning her down and dragging her before you, asking how you wish to dispose of her, even offering to hold her down themselves so that you would not need to exert any effort. You wave your hand dismissively. "There is no rush. Throw her into the backyard and lock her away. I have other matters to attend to." The servants hastily obey, hauling the desperately struggling Gusi toward the backyard. At the same time, chaos has erupted at the foot of Ye Huangtian Mountain. The disciples of the Yi family are acting like madmen, forcibly seizing spirit fields occupied by commoners. Zhang Tianba, an elder of a nearby minor sect, has been called upon by the villagers to intervene. He beats his chest and declares that while he is here, he will not allow the Yi family to touch even a single hair on the heads of the villagers. He leads the villagers to find Qian Yun, who is currently marking the territorial boundaries, and immediately demands to know the meaning of the Yi family's actions. On what grounds are they forcibly seizing the property of commoners? Is there no rule of law left? Qian Yun instinctively. However, the direct disciple beside him hurriedly whispered a reminder. Master, do not bow your head. If you bow, upon our return we shall all surely perish. Qian Yun shuddered, instantly snapping back to his senses, nearly forgetting that the figure watching from behind was a ruthless individual who showed no mercy, and that failing the mission would mean presenting his own head by nightfall. He raised the yellowed map in his hand, his aura instantly surging with intensity. This is the map from when our Yi clan was founded. We have never sold a single inch of land. It is you commoners who have usurped the Yi clan's ancestral territory. We are merely reclaiming what is rightfully ours. The woman beside Zhang Tianba immediately spoke up. Wretched commoners, this small plot is their entire harvest for the year. Questioning how the Yi clan could be so devoid of generosity? Wait until next year to collect it, Zhang Tianba chimed in, arguing that they were only seizing land, while the Yi clan was taking their very lives, demanding that the Yi clan help harvest the crops and provide monetary compensation instead. No sooner had these words been spoken than the surrounding villagers began to clamor in agreement. They cursed the Yi clan for being narrow-minded, bullying the weak, and having no sense of shame. The Yi clan disciples were berated to the point of hanging their heads, their work grinding to a complete halt. Witnessing this scene, a flame of rage ignited within Qian Yun's heart. Damnable fools, to retreat a single step is death, not just my own death but the death of my entire household. He gritted his teeth, directly channeling the cultivation of the void refinement realm peak, and shouted in a stern commanding voice to all the Yi clan disciples. Disciples of the Yi clan, listen well. If the mission is not completed today, returning means total annihilation of our sect. Let a fellow Taoist die rather than myself. The disciples were instantly shaken back to reality. That was right. Did they even have a path of retreat? To retreat was to face certain death. Qian Yun turned to face Zhang Tianba, his tone devoid of even a fraction of compromise. Taoist Zhang, I offer my apologies. Unless you intend to kill me, there is no room for negotiation regarding today's matters. If we yield, we are certain to die. Zhang Tianba's expression darkened as he replied. This is not according to the rules. A challenge requires a formal declaration of war 3 months in advance, and he urged Qian Yun to possess a spirit of sacrifice, using the lives of a few to trade for the lives of the common folk. It would be worth it, for the common folk would surely sing praises of your virtues. Qian Yun felt a surge of pure indignation. In the past, when he was put on such a pedestal, he could only lower his head and admit fault. But now he had nowhere left to retreat. He suddenly unleashed the entirety of his cultivation base. His spiritual energy swept across the entire arena, and toward all those who stood in his way, he let out a stern, thunderous roar. Enough of this empty talk. I have already stated that if I fail this mission, I die. Who among you still dares to obstruct me? Qian Yun seemed to have suddenly lost all emotional control. He swiftly gathered his spiritual energy, manifesting an ethereal, colossal avatar of himself. As Qian Yun raised his hand, the avatar mirrored his movements perfectly. Lifting a boulder as massive as a hillside, it smashed directly down toward the crowd below. Heavens! Zhang Tianba was struck with terror and immediately scrambled to retreat. His cultivation was merely at the mid-stage of the nascent soul realm. He was fundamentally no match for a single strike. Yet, as he fled, Zhang Tianba remained unwilling to yield, shouting at Qian Yun, "You have gone mad. Are you not afraid of being reviled by all under the heavens?" Hearing the voice, Qian Yun locked onto Zhang Tianba's position, clenched his fist, and unleashed a barrage of strikes toward him. I am on the brink of death, and you dare lecture me on honor? Gan poured his entire strength into his fists, venting the pent-up frustration and suppressed rage within his heart. By the time he finally calmed down, the vast expanse of land had already been reduced to countless deep craters. Broken limbs were scattered everywhere, and even the earth itself was stained crimson with golden lifeblood. Beside Qian Yun was the woman who had accompanied Zhang Tianba. By now her legs had turned to jelly, and she sat collapsed on the ground. Beneath her was a puddle of yellowish-brown fluid, reeking with an unbearable stench. Seeing Qian Yun glance in her direction, the woman disregarded all sense of decorum. Caring nothing for the mess she had just made, she prostrated herself on the ground, pleading with desperate urgency, "I beg of you, do not kill me. I know I was wrong. We should never have interfered in these matters. It was all Zhang Tianba's fault." Qian Yun had no lingering murderous intent. He had simply been driven to the edge, losing his composure in his fury. Taking a deep breath, Qian Yun turned to look at the stunned disciples of the Ye family and scolded them sternly. "Are you still standing there? Do you wish to die?" The Yi family disciples were instantly jolted back to reality. They hurriedly scrambled to follow the previous instructions, using cords to mark the foundation for the city wall, while Qian Yun dismissed the woman with a single word, "Begone." Qian Yun clasped his hands behind his back, slowly pacing along the newly constructed wall. He clenched his fists, released them, and clenched them again, causing his own injuries to ache. He did not enjoy the act, yet the sensation of eliminating such a garrulous nuisance was undeniably refreshing. Those who disregard evidence and prefer to cast groundless accusations deserve no sympathy in death. He had not expected Ye Huangtian's method of resolution to be so remarkably effective. Yet, having opened the gates of slaughter today, how was he to face the judgment of the world? No, that cannot be. How could he harbor such a thirst for power like those who commit atrocities? Ganyun walked alone, his heart burdened with countless uncertainties. Having walked for some distance, he encountered another elder. The expressions in their eyes were heavy with complexity. In the gloom of the nether realm, the two approached each other. They both noticed the wreckage behind their companion, yet when they spoke, neither dared to mention it. Is the situation on your side stable? I am currently defining the boundaries. The progress is satisfactory. As for you, you are merely confined within your own domain. The two engaged in idle chatter, yet unconsciously their attitudes had undergone a subtle shift. Time drifted by, and as night fell, the elders and sect masters sent to various regions returned one by one. The gazes of some were filled with a resolute willingness to die. The gazes of others were particularly dark and ominous. Everyone waited, waiting for the assembly to be complete before paying their respects and reporting to Ye Huangtian. But suddenly a piercing voice erupted from the foot of the mountain. Stand aside, all of you, and let this monk pass. Ye Huangtian, you have razed my temple and desecrated my golden Buddha statue. Your crimes deserve 10,000 deaths. If you do not grant me an explanation today, I shall ensure you know no peace. A bald monk charged into the great hall, brimming with fury. Shortly thereafter, an elderly man leaning on a cane followed. Guided by two youths, the old man wailed as he ascended the steps to the great hall. Heaven is unjust. Where is the justice of the world? Ye clan, what kind of vile hearts do you possess? You seized the orchards of our village and forcibly plundered our resources. Is there no law left in this land? The old man wept bitterly as he climbed higher. Seeing the elders and sect masters standing in wait, his voice grew even more shrill. You band of accomplices, you pathetic cowards who cannot withstand a single blow. Where is the justice of heaven? Two of the elders stepped forward from the crowd, bowing. We shall accompany you to demand justice. The worst that can happen is death. Since ancient times, who has ever escaped mortality? Let us leave behind a legacy of integrity supported by these two elders. The old man's wailing grew even louder. As they walked toward the main hall, among the elders remaining in their places, Qian Yun suddenly let out a soft laugh. This single laugh seemed to shatter the shackles binding everyone's hearts. These two still wish to maintain their integrity. Is that not an invitation for their entire clan to be wiped out? Tisk, I find myself increasingly unable to comprehend how these people dare to enter the main hall. Say no more. Their minds are clearly not sound. We are the only rational ones here. Today, only 18 elders remain standing here. Nearly half are missing, while the number of hall masters who stayed is relatively higher, with over 200 present, a loss of only about 30%. It is evident that those who had the courage to return to the Ye family had naturally completed their mission, and their hands were, to varying degrees, stained with a golden liquid. This shared experience gradually began to bind them together. Qian Yun glanced at the crowd and sighed, Everyone, brace yourselves. There will surely be a deluge of insults awaiting us. Before Qian Yun could even finish his sentence, with a dull thud, a bald head flew straight out from the main hall, striking the ground and rolling several times, before finally coming to a stop. The voice of Ye Huangtian echoed from within the hall, Since you love the Buddha so dearly, this sovereign shall send you to meet him. Shortly thereafter, another heavy sound resonated, as the elder's headless corpse rolled down the stone steps toward the foot of the mountain. The sight of the headless body left everyone in terror. Huangtian's cold laughter rang out again. If the ground is not inscribed with this sovereign's name, then it does not belong to me. I see your name is not written upon you either, so I have graciously relieved you of your weary burden. Why have you not yet thanked this sovereign? While the crowd waited in mounting tension, the two elders who had accompanied him were suddenly sent flying backward, dissolving into golden streaks of light in the air, as he summoned their eldest sons to take their place. If you refuse to act, there are plenty who will. Elders, hallmasters, get in here and report immediately. Upon hearing this, everyone's hearts sank to the depths. Ganyun immediately led the way into the great hall, where fresh golden liquid still stained the floor, yet no one dared to cast even a single glance at it. Every eye in the room was fixed firmly upon you, as you sat with one leg resting on the table, fingers toying with a dried seed, glancing over with a leisurely air, a cryptic smile playing on your lips. Have my elders finally returned? How did the task proceed? Ganyun immediately dropped to one knee, articulating every word clearly. Reporting to Clan Master Yi, this subordinate led 100 disciples of the Yi clan, following the ancestral maps of the Yi clan, recovering our lands, fortifying the ramparts, and stationing tribesmen to stand guard day and night, ensuring that not 1 inch shall be lost again. You cast a casual glance at him, your lips curling upward. Considering him to have passed the test, you gestured for him to withdraw. Ganyun bowed hurriedly. This subordinate still has some lingering doubts and wishes to seek the clan master's guidance when you are at leisure. I wonder if the clan master would be willing to instruct me. You raised your eyebrows in surprise, waving your hand to address those waiting in the hall. Wait outside, the elders shall come forward one by one to report. Your lips repeated only the two words, satisfactory, time and time again, leaving those waiting outside the hall trembling in their hearts, each of them assuming it was the highest praise you could bestow. Until the final elder stepped forward, who spoke not a word of his achievements, but fell to his knees with a heavy thud, tears streaming down his face as he kowtowed, confessing that he had misread the map and mistakenly claimed 2 extra acres of land under the Yi clan's name, willing to accept any punishment, begging only for mercy for his family. Clap, clap, clap. Sharp, rhythmic applause echoed through the great hall. The elder looked up in bewilderment, only to see you draw your leg back from the table, leaning forward slightly as the smile on your face deepened. You have done well, very well. Why would I ever punish you? The elder gaped, unable to utter a single word for a long moment until you tapped the table. Your voice dropped suddenly, resounding like a thunderclap in everyone's ears. Are we to believe that this world only permits mere ants to seize the assets of my Ye clan? Is it simply because they are weak? If they can seize resources, then I cultivate to make myself strong and labor painstakingly to make my clan powerful. What, then, is the meaning of all this? Is the true purpose of attaining great power merely to allow these ants to ride upon our heads and soil our dignity as they please? You slam your hand against the table with such force that the dried seeds upon the desk leap into the air. Hear me well. The rules shall be dictated by the strong. Those who do not submit shall be eradicated. These words shatter the moral foundations of the elders, permanently cementing the standard by which they must now live. As the meeting disperses, every one of them carries a heavy burden upon their heart. Only after everyone has retreated does Ganyun re-enter the hall, bowing deeply to pay his respects to the patriarch. This subordinate has a question. I implore the patriarch to clear my doubts. You lean back against your chair. You tilt your chin to signal him to speak. This subordinate agrees that the patriarch's philosophy of valuing strength above all is correct, but I do not understand how by acting in such a manner, you intend to face the condemnation of the world? Seeing your eyes turn cold at the mention of the fearful gossip spreading through the world, Ganyun hurriedly kowtows, his entire body tensing like a drawn bowstring, terrified that the next moment his head might be severed from his shoulders. Yet you merely let out a cold laugh. Why should I fear the idle chatter of the masses? Once I have swept away all those who refuse to submit, there will naturally be those who follow to sing praises of my virtues. With that declaration, you stand and depart, not sparing him another glance. The scene shifts as you follow a maidservant to the rear courtyard of the main hall. Fairy Goose, her garments disheveled, catches sight of you. With a sharp gasp, she hurriedly covers her vulnerable points with her hands, blushing as she sternly reprimands you. It is broad daylight, and it is improper for a man and woman to be alone. Are you not afraid of being reviled by the world? You reach out to wrap your arm around her neck, gently pulling her into your embrace. As your breaths mingle, your cold, sinister laughter echoes in her ear, and you cast a sweeping gaze toward the servants in the courtyard. Has anyone among you seen commit an act of impropriety against Fairy Goosey? The servants turn their backs in unison, shaking their heads frantically like rattling drums. No, Fairy Goosey is in seclusion. She is certainly not in this courtyard. Watching her face streaming with tears, her mouth muttering, "This is unfair," you find the sight dull and flavorless. The next morning, the maidservant bows and asks you how she should deal with Fairy Goosey, who lies on the ground like a soul devoid of life. Without turning your head, you reply, "Feed her 30 spirit-gathering pills every day and force her to cultivate." It was difficult enough to find such a profound spirit physique. Although I have no further need for her services, her body must not go to waste. In the future, whoever performs a meritorious deed for the clan shall be— The maid trembled inwardly, yet she could only obey and follow orders. Complying, the moment you stepped out of the backyard, you saw that Chanyun had been waiting at the gate for quite some time. His bloodshot eyes stared fixedly at you, while his hands presented a stack of land deeds, shimmering with faint golden light. Reporting to the patriarch, last night I led our clansmen to expand our territory by 3 miles. These are the land deeds seized, you replied, casually correcting his words. The commoners living at the foot of the mountain have occupied Ye family land for far too long. Recently, they have had a change of heart, feeling remorse, and have voluntarily surrendered these deeds as an act of penance. Xianyun was momentarily stunned and questioned. Their voluntariness is likely born of duress, is it not? You bared your teeth in a grin. If they are forced to be voluntary, then it is still considered voluntary. You reached out to grasp his hand, pressing the stack of golden deeds back into his palm. Well done. Consider these your reward and take half a day to rest. Regarding that porcelain piece you have desired for so long, these deeds are more than enough to purchase the entire kiln. Observing his breathing grow labored and his hand holding the deeds tremble slightly, you smiled and turned to leave. A wolf that has once weathered the storm can never return to a life of grazing. A few days later, Qianyun strode rapidly into the grand hall, his hearty laughter shattering the silence of the chamber. Patriarch, who shall we handle next? Qianyun is willing to lay down his life for you. The 36 newly appointed elders in the hall were all stunned into silence, convinced that Qianyun was certain to meet his end today. But you merely tossed a few challenge scrolls from the table toward him. Today, 7 sects have declared war against our Yi family. The strongest among them, the Tianxin Sword Sect, is guarded by 3 cultivators at the early stage of the Void Refinement realm. Tell me, how many men do you require to bring them to their knees? Qianyun lowered his head in contemplation for a moment, then looked up and answered clearly. 300 disciples of the Yi clan will suffice. You nodded. Take the 100 strongest, ensure you collect their tributes of apology and repentance. Qianyun bared his teeth in a grin and immediately left to carry out the order, leaving the elders in the hall wide-eyed and speechless. You glanced at them briefly and spoke with indifference. Why are you looking at me? Have I ever harmed others without cause? Do I truly appear to be such a ruthless and malicious person? The veteran elders hurriedly shook their heads, fearful of displeasing you. The newly promoted elders instinctively nodded, then frantically shook their heads instead. The atmosphere in the hall grew tense in an instant. You did not blink. Turning your head, you summoned two elders who are close confidants of Qian Yun. Do you know where Qian Yun went last night? The front lines must be pushed forward by at least 5 miles. Their eyes brighten instantly, they hurriedly acknowledge the order and dash out. You then casually point to another elder, tossing a letter to him. You will make a trip for me, and deliver this letter directly into the hands of the Tianfeng dynasty. You must arrive within 10 days. A heavy reward awaits your return. If you fail to reach them within 12 days, you will bear the consequences yourself. Is that understood? The elder hurriedly accepts the command. Setting off at full speed, after all, the Tianfeng dynasty is merely a whetstone, which you have prepared to awaken the entire Yi clan. No sooner had you finished handling the clan affairs than a piercing, angry shout echoed from outside the mountain gate. The sound, carried by spiritual energy, reverberated throughout the entire Yi clan. Yi clan, have you all gone too far? The Tianqin sword sect sent a formal challenge to you in accordance with tradition, yet you dispatched your people without even sending a reply. Are you not afraid of the retribution that will follow? You arch an eyebrow, your body flickering, and instantly appear in the sky. Facing you is a female cultivator in green robes, clutching a precious sword. Her cultivation is at the peak of the nascent soul stage, and her beautiful face is filled with fury. The silver bells on her robes jingle as she moves. Who are you? And why have you come to my Yi clan? You cross your arms and watch her, finding it amusing. She dares to act as a hero without sufficient strength. Truly, she has come only to throw her life away. She lifts her chin high, her voice ringing out. Listen well and cleanse your ears, for I am the heroine of Yu Prefecture, Lu Yan, who walks the path of justice. Your Yi clan ignored protocol by failing to send a response, and you dispatched your men without setting a time for the duel. This is not how things are done. I am giving you one chance to repent today, so do not be ungrateful. You rub your chin, suddenly taking an interest in toying with her. Wait a moment, I have a rather significant question. What benefit is there for you in meddling in this affair? Lu Yan furrows her brows, glaring at you. I uphold justice and righteousness. Why would I need a benefit? The Yi family acts without regard for the rules. Last night, you dispatched men to forcibly seize land from the commoners. These matters must be addressed clearly. You let out a faint chuckle, your tone as sincere as one coaxing a child. Those land deeds were gifts from the commoners. We did not seize them. If you do not believe me, we can descend together and confront them. They truly offered them willingly. Lu Yan did not hesitate. She turned and descended toward the village below. Very well, it is this village. Follow me. You followed her at a leisurely pace as she landed on the ground. No sooner had Lu Yan stood firm than she loudly called out to the surrounding villagers. Everyone wake up. I have brought Ye Huangtian here. Whatever he has done to you, speak your minds plainly. With me here today, I will certainly ensure justice is served for all of you. As soon as her words faded, countless villagers armed with hoes and sickles swarmed in from all directions. They surrounded you tightly. An old woman spat on the ground, pointing at your nose and cursing you with vile insults. A middle-aged man beside her joined in the shouting, demanding you return the land and pay compensation, their vitriol growing more intense by the second. Vulgar abuse washed over you like a rising tide, yet you paid them no mind throughout. You turned your head and smiled at Lu Yan. Oh, righteous heroine, if you do not stop them, they will beat me to death right here. I am feeling quite fearful. Your comment was meant as a casual jest, yet unexpectedly Lu Yan actually stepped in front of you, shielding you from the enraged mob. Everyone, calm yourselves. I will ensure justice for you all. Now is not the time for violence. The commoners fell silent in an instant, surrounding Lu Yan to weep and recount their grievances, circling back repeatedly to how difficult their lives had become. You had heard these tiresome laments so often that your ears had grown callous to them. Once Lu Yan finished consoling them, she walked up to you, her face dark, intent on lecturing you about the laws of the Tianfeng dynasty. Without waiting for her to finish, you simply extended your hand to interrupt her. Where exactly did I seize anything? I have already told you, they gave it to me. Lu Yan's expression turned icy as she drew her precious sword and plunged it into the earth. With so many witnesses present, what else do you have to offer in your defense? You snapped your fingers, and in an instant, clearing your throat, you declare, these 3,000 people can bear witness for me, that these commoners gifted the land to me of their own volition. They have seen it with their own eyes. These commoners are my witnesses. Or do you mean to say the disciples of the Yi clan are not? As soon as the words left your lips, the Yi clan disciples reacted in an instant, straining their necks to echo your claim, insisting that the commoners had voluntarily handed over their land deeds, only to turn around and bite the hand that fed them. The commoners were instantly incensed, their faces flushing red as they traded insults with the Yi clan disciples. The scene descended into absolute chaos, and no matter how much effort Lu Yan exerted, she could not quell the uproar. She suddenly whipped her head around and shouted in anger, "Are you not going to tell the Yi clan members to stop? You possess high cultivation bases. Should you not be the ones to show restraint toward them? They are mere commoners of the lowest class. They are the weak." At her sharp rebuke, the Yi clan disciples instantly fell silent, but the commoners grew even more unruly. They pointed fingers at you and the Yi clan disciples, hurling increasingly vitriolic insults. Some decried your habit of bullying the weak, others demanded your exile from the Huangtian mountain, and some even called for your death to atone for your actions. Throughout the commotion, you maintained the demeanor of a spectator watching a play. Your gaze fixed upon Lu Yan, finding this so-called heroine pitifully ignorant. The farce had begun to lose its amusement. With a flick of your finger, you instantly sealed the throats of every commoner present. The world finally fell silent. You reached out and pulled a Foundation Establishment disciple from the Yi clan forward, the very one who had been spat upon by the old woman earlier, and asked him, "For what purpose do you cultivate?" The disciple was stunned for a long moment before dropping to one knee with a heavy thud. This subordinate does not know. Please, Patriarch, enlighten me. You patted his shoulder firmly, your voice ringing across the entire plaza. The paths of cultivation are manifold. Some possess grand ambitions, wishing to reach the pinnacle of the world, to stand above all others. Others cultivate to slay their enemies with their own hands, secluding themselves for centuries. There are even those who cultivate simply because they do not wish to share a world with ants. But I have never heard that one must act subservient to ants once they have attained strength in cultivation. The disciple gritted his teeth, gripped his weapon, and stood up. He walked to the front of the old woman who had spat on him earlier, and uttered a single phrase. By order of the Patriarch, pardon the offense. But before his blade could descend, countless chains erupted from the earth, binding him tightly. The smile vanished from your face in an instant. Fury surged to your very core, and with a thunderous roar you bellowed. The weak are those who cannot withstand a single blow. It is because of fools like you that the Yi family has allowed these ants to occupy our lands for decades. They have seized the Yi family's territory for so many years. I am merely reclaiming what rightfully belongs to us. Yet you wish to apologize to them? You tightened your grip. The body of the disciple erupted with a thunderous crash, shattering into a mist of golden light that scattered in every direction. You turned to stare intently at the 3,000 Yi family disciples standing behind you, roaring in indignation. We are the strong. The rules should have been set by us from the very beginning. What is it that you are all so afraid of? But your words fell like stones into a bottomless pool, failing to stir even a ripple of response. Lu Yan walked calmly to your side, and spoke with cold detachment. Your clansmen do not support your decisions. If one person opposes you, perhaps the fault lies with them. But when so many turn against you, it is certain that the problem lies with you. In my view, you have yet to understand how arduous the life of a mortal truly is. If you still do not realize where you have erred, then seal your cultivation. Experience this life once more as a mere mortal. She reached out her hand, and in her palm rested a pitch-black sealing stone. Place your cultivation within it, and it shall be temporarily suppressed. I shall safeguard this power for you. Once you have earned the recognition of the common people, I will return it to you. You are a person of your word, and you would never break a promise. You gazed down at the sealing stone, raised your hand, and poured your entire essence of spiritual energy into it. A soft humming sound resonated through the air as you withdrew your hand. The sealing stone was now brimming with your spiritual energy. Lu Yan finally exhaled in relief, hurriedly tucking the stone away for safekeeping. The commoners began to rub their throats, finding their voices once more as their gazes shifted towards you. The fear in their eyes instantly transformed into greed and malice. He has no cultivation left. Kill him. He is the one who took my husband from me. I want him to pay for his blood in kind. Countless commoners, brandishing hoes and sickles, surged past Lu Yan like a maddened tide, rushing straight at you until you were swallowed by the surging crowd in an instant. Lu Yan stomped her foot in panic, shouting repeatedly, "Wait a moment," but by the time you were completely engulfed by the masses, she had still not thought to intervene with force. At that very moment, a sneer echoed from within the crowd. Do you all think so little of this seat? A swirling vortex of energy erupted with a deafening roar, and the commoners who had been swarming forward were cast aside. One by one, they collapsed to the ground, unable to rise again. You dusted off your hands and turned to look at the 3,000 disciples of the Yi clan behind you. Not a single one had stepped forward to assist you just moments ago. You offered a smile, your tone calm and steady. "My apologies. I have disappointed you all." In the next instant, boundless flames surged violently from the earth, and those 3,000 Yi clan disciples vanished into a sea of fire. The raging inferno brushed against the hem of your robes, whipping your hair into the air as your voice rang out, cold and detached. Every word struck the ground with the weight of a hammer. Those who are cowardly and weak, unable to withstand even a single blow, are not worthy of stepping into my Yi family. Lu Yan was left in a daze. She could neither stop the rioting crowd nor prevent you from acting with such ruthlessness toward the weaklings of the Yi clan. She gripped the sealing stone tightly, tears streaming down her face, her voice choked with emotion. "Why? I clearly intended to help you become a qualified family head. Why must you treat them this way?" With a flick of your finger, the sealing stone shattered into dust, and the dispersing spiritual energy was completely reclaimed. With one hand behind your back, you spoke with an icy chill. If my cultivation base had not been sufficiently high, following your script would have left me as nothing more than a pile of mud. Lu Yan was rendered speechless, watching the flames behind you gradually fade, yet she raised her voice. "But they are your clansmen. They share your bloodline. You are truly a cold-blooded man." Hearing the words cold-blooded man, you bared your teeth in a grin. "And so, you intend to lecture a heartless man on morality?" With a wave of your hand, the surrounding scenery shifted violently. You cast Lu Yan directly into the black prison of the back mountain. The next second, the iron door of the dungeon creaked shut. A maidservant glared down at Lu Yan, who had fallen to the ground, and spoke with a chilling reminder. "If you do not wish to be bound by chains, do not even think of escaping." Having said that, she walked over to the incapacitated fairy goose, forcefully pried open her mouth, and shoved. Lu Yan immediately raised her voice. Stop! Do you not see that she has no desire to eat? Do you possess even a shred of humanity left? The maid suddenly turned her head, the mockery in her eyes completely unconcealed. Humanity? Is this humanity you speak of meant to force the Yi family to serve as dogs for your kind? What constitutes a dog? They are so weak, should they not be protected? The maid gave a cold laugh. You truly have something wrong with your mind. Had young Master Yi not possessed the strength to shatter all techniques, I would still be in the dark even now. The strong possess so many privileges. Even the elimination of obstacles requires no justification whatsoever. You remain completely unaware that the first member of the Ye family to awaken was not Qian Yun, but this very maid who follows by your side each day. At that same moment, outside the mountain gate of the Tianxin sword sect, Qian Yun led 500 Yi family disciples in a direct assault. The guarding disciples blocked his path, immediately lecturing him on the rules and insisting he wait for the scheduled rematch in a month's time. Qian Yun sneered, striking that disciple in the chest with a single palm and casually casting his corpse to the ground. Rules, I have come here to purge this entire sect. A Yi family disciple nearby grew fearful and quickly held him back, his voice trembling as he advised, do not act with such cruelty, do not emulate him. Qian Yun did not even bother to glance at him, striking the man in the chest with a casual motion. As he withdrew his hand, golden specks of light splattered about. He swept his gaze across the remaining men. Whoever dares to advise me again, this shall be your fate. In this world, strength is everything. Having spoken, he surged directly into the mountain gate. The entire Tianxin sword sect was caught completely off guard. 3 great elders of the early void refinement stage even attempted to offer salutations first, only to be cleanly defeated one by his blade. Once he had thoroughly ransacked the Tianxin sword sect, he returned to the Yi family's great hall as night fell. He saw you sitting upon the seat of honor, your great perfection stage pressure radiating without the slightest restraint, suppressing the elders and sect leaders in the hall until they could barely catch their breath. The great hall was deathly silent. You rested your hands upon the table, sweeping your gaze over the trembling crowd below, your voice not loud, yet resonating like a thunderclap. Today there were those dissatisfied with my conduct. Do any of you have any leads? The crowd hurriedly shook their heads, shouting until their throats grew hoarse that you were wise and brilliant, yet only Qian Yun stood up and bowed his hands. Reporting to the Patriarch, during our excursion to the Tianxin sword sect today, the Yi family disciples not only failed to assist, but also scattered in fear. I believe it is time to teach them a lesson they will never forget. You cast a faint glance at him, remaining silent, waiting for him to express his position. Unfortunately, aside from Qian Yun, no one in the hall dared to speak. They all cursed you inwardly as a ruthless tyrant, lamenting that Qian Yun had chosen to follow in Lin Luo's footsteps, yet they dared only to bow their heads before your overwhelming presence. The maid escorted Lu Yan into the great hall, bowed, and said, reporting to the young master, the person has been brought. You gave a slight nod. As soon as the restrictions upon Lu Yan were lifted, she immediately pointed at you, berating you incessantly. Round and round, she repeated that you were a heartless brute who shed blood without a flicker of hesitation, and that the people of the world would surely hold you in contempt. You chuckled, gesturing toward her as you addressed the crowd in the hall. Have you seen clearly now? She is scolding a ruthless man for acting without humanity. Is that not truly laughable? As the maid escorted Lu Yan away, you suddenly waved your hand, your cold gaze sweeping over the crowd. Are you all wondering why I have allowed her to leave the mountain? Everyone's heart tightened instantly, gripped by an ominous premonition. You grinned, dropping a bombshell. I have spent 3 hours drafting a list of crimes for each of you, and I have made sure she has memorized every single one. The great hall fell into immediate chaos. An elder's eyes turned bloodshot on the spot, and he howled, you are driving them into the abyss. The others joined the clamor, demanding to know why you would frame them. Your expression darkened further with every passing second. In the blink of an eye, the hall fell so silent that the falling of a needle could be heard. They all understood. If you truly decide to act further, their heads would be severed from their necks. An elder hurriedly stepped forward to mediate, bowing low as he said, surely there must be some misunderstanding. I beg for your guidance, you scoffed. A misunderstanding? I am simply seeking a bit of amusement. I wish to see the expressions on your faces when you are hunted down by the people of Yuzhou. The entire hall went deathly silent. Everyone's eyes widened in disbelief, unable to fathom that you would treat their lifelong reputations as nothing more than a source of entertainment. You propped your feet onto the table, nonchalantly gesturing toward Qian Yun with your chin. Qian Yun, go bring me the ancestral tablets of these elders' clans. The weather is cold enough to chill the bones. I wish to light a fire to warm myself. Qian Yun immediately cupped his hands. Just as he prepared to move, a group of elders rushed to block the entrance of the hall, pointing at Qian Yun and cursing him for aiding a tyrant. Qian Yun laughed in their faces. A group of fools who do nothing but wag their tongues. If you have the ability, use your strength to stop me. He raised his hand, pointing at the 3 elders whose cultivation levels were superior to his own. Elder Tian, the 3 of you possess strength far surpassing mine. Why not make your move? Why dally and create such an incessant clamor? The 3 men's faces turned ash gray, yet they dared not stir. You cast a satisfied glance at Qian Yun. This lad is playing his part in perfect synchronization with you. Qianyun suddenly turned and bowed to you. I asked the clan head to order Elder Tusu, who scolded me so viciously, to fetch my family's ancestral tablets so we may burn them to warm our feet. And while he is at it, unearth my family's ancestral graves to feed the bones to the dogs. Elder Tusu was instantly stunned, hastily pulling him back and telepathically warning him not to lose his mind. You spoke with complete indifference, following Qianyun's lead. Very well, Elder Tusu, proceed. Tusu's entire body trembled. To defy the order was to invite death. He gritted his teeth and uttered, "I have offended you," before turning to leave. But the moment one foot crossed the threshold of the hall, Qianyun grabbed him by the collar and dragged him back, delivering 3 heavy punches that sent golden light streaming from his nose and mouth, rendering him unconscious instantly. Qianyun brushed off his hands and glanced at the gathered crowd. The clan head may command me as he pleases, because I lack the strength to overcome him, but if you dare touch my ancestral tablets, I will risk my life to take yours. If you do not move to protect your own possessions, I shall go and desecrate your ancestral graves. The 3 elders who had been named panicked instantly, shouting sternly, "Stop!" Qianyun ignored them entirely, turning and bolting toward the ancestral grounds of one of their clans. The 3 of them, gripped by panic, dropped to their knees before you with a heavy thud. "Clan head, we beg you to rescind this order." You spat on the ground and mocked them. Your strength is greater than Qianyun's. Is it truly so difficult to defeat him? Is it such a struggle to use your fists to accomplish a simple task? Oh, and by the way, you had best hurry. Qianyun is quite nimble with his hands and feet. The 3 men gritted their teeth violently and shot out of the hall like arrows. The other elders, no longer able to sit still, stood in unison and rushed back toward their respective family grounds. The great hall emptied in an instant. You narrowed your eyes slightly, understanding in your heart that this provocation was still not enough to bring them to a full realization. At that moment, a maidservant stepped forward, knelt on one knee and reached out to gently massage your legs, whispering softly, "Young master, I fear that by doing this, it will still be." You raise an eyebrow. "Oh, pray tell." Their current change of heart was forced upon them by your hand. They will simply lay all the blame at your feet. To truly transform them, they must taste the sweetness of resolving matters through sheer force. Why did Elder Qianyun have such a change of heart? Because you rewarded him with land deeds, granting him tangible benefits. These words immediately brought you a sense of enlightenment. You gaze at her intently for a long moment. Suddenly, a memory from your predecessor's past resurfaces. This girl was actually the one closest to the original host. Previously, she was oppressed by Lin Shuling to the point where she could not even lift her head. You chuckle, so the wounds on Luyan were inflicted by you. The maid falls to her knees in terror. What crime have I committed? She is merely a wretched prisoner. She cannot compare to your loyalty. You reach out and tilt her chin upward, admiring her delicate features. Very well, tonight you shall attend to me. The maid's eyes instantly light up as she nods fervently. As you command, young master. You stand and stretch your limbs, but first you must settle the foul business regarding these elders. Regarding the discipline of the Ye family disciples, do you have any insights? The maid lowers her gaze and whispers, "Perhaps you could take them on a journey to the Fangyun sword sect." Upon hearing her words, your smile widens. Plundering a sect would allow them to seize benefits with their own hands. This suggestion is much to your liking. You pat her head. Attend to me for 3 days. Flushed with bashfulness, the maid hurries away to prepare. The scene shifts to the main gates of the Tusu clan, where Qianyun clenches his fists tightly. The opposing elder Tusu has just regained consciousness. He blocks the entrance with a look of grim determination. "If you wish to touch my family's ancestral tablets, you must step over my corpse." Qianyun suddenly laughs, tossing back the tablets he had just seized before leaning against the wall with his arms crossed. "No one make a move. The patriarch has sent a transmission. He has commanded us to wait here." No sooner had he finished speaking than you arrived on the scene. You place a hand on Qianyun's shoulder, infusing him with spiritual energy. His depleted reserves are instantly replenished. "Many thanks, patriarch." You dismiss his gratitude with a wave of your hand. You turn your gaze toward Elder Tusu, whose face has turned deathly pale. "I recall your Tusu clan has a young lad, one who is quite close with a female disciple of the Fang Yun sword sect named Tu Xin, yet her master has used every scheme imaginable to keep them apart, and was even met with insults, leaving the marriage proposal unfulfilled. This is the truth, is it not?" Elder Tusu nodded instinctively. You raised your hand and shouted, your voice echoing throughout the entire grounds. "Whoever wishes to protect our ancestor, follow me. We are going to the Fang Yun sword sect right now to settle this marriage matter." In the dead of night, you personally led the entire Yi family. 1,000 elite disciples, meticulously selected, marched formidably toward the Fang Yun sword sect. Upon reaching the mountain gate, disciples stood in your way to block the path. The moment they spoke, they demanded a formal visiting card. You calmly reached out in front of that disciple and began to write as you pleased. "Ye Huangtian comes to visit. Those who do not bow shall be erased." Qianyun immediately magnified these words manifold, turning them into a grand banner to carry on his shoulder as he strode into the mountain gate. The disciples were still shouting about the breach of protocol, but with a swift motion, Qianyun's blade fell, instantly cutting down those who blocked the way. He stepped through the puddles of golden liquid and continued upward. Elder Tusu's face turned ashen, drained of all color. He cried out in his heart, overwhelmed by the dire situation, wounding their people, While still intending to propose marriage, was this not mere wishful thinking? You reached out and patted his shoulder, laughing as you said, Elder Tusu, do not panic. What does it matter if they are injured? I have come empty-handed today, without a single betrothal gift. Elder Tusu's expression immediately became even more unsightly. You dragged him along, stepping through the golden liquid until you reached the main hall of the Fangyun sword sect. The members of the sect had already gathered in full force. The sect leader, Fairy Su Hong, glared at you in fury, her first words threatening to report this to the Heavenly Phoenix dynasty. Before she could finish, you flicked your finger, and she instantly froze, collapsing heavily onto the ground. Too noisy, you uttered those two words, stepping forward to press your foot onto her face. I ask you, where is Tushin within your sect? The moment she could speak, she shrieked that you were bullying a defenseless woman. Your foot suddenly exerted force, causing the tricolored source power, white, gold, and green, to splatter everywhere. You glanced at the remaining disciples, who were trembling uncontrollably. With a cold smirk, you said, wrong answer. You then pointed at a random disciple. Where is Tujin? That disciple was so terrified he lost control of himself on the spot, his finger shaking as he pointed toward a young woman in the crowd. This was Tushin. He stepped toward the young woman and scanned her briefly before asking, Are you Tushin? The girl gave a trembling nod. Her appearance was indeed refined and said, The son of Elder Tusu of my Ye family is named Tusu Hanyue. Surely you are aware of him? I am. Today I have brought the entire clan here specifically to propose a marriage for that boy. Do you accept? Tushin stood frozen, as did everyone in the hall. Who in their right mind comes to propose after first crushing the sect leader and injuring the gatekeepers? At that moment, a female cultivator suddenly rushed out and shielded Tushin, shrieking in a stern voice, I do not give my consent. She immediately began hurling insults, claiming Tusu Hanyu's appearance was beneath contempt and his character was wretched, before declaring herself Tushin's master. She insisted this marriage was hers to decide. Tushin frantically pulled at her sleeve, whispering, Master Hanyu is actually a very good man. The female cultivator ignored her entirely, turning around to mock Elder Tusu as he stepped forward. She unleashed a torrent of insults without restraint. Suddenly, you let out a chilling laugh. And what of it? Is it you who wishes to be the bride? You are old and withered, yet you don't even bother to look in a mirror. Are you truly an old cow hoping to feast on young grass? The members of the Yi family within the hall could no longer suppress their laughter. Qian Yun laughed even louder, joining in with his own mockery. They are a perfectly matched couple. What business is it of yours, you old hag? He then turned to incite the elders standing beside him. Brothers, we were humiliated by this old hag last time. Now that we have the family head's backing, do you still lack the courage to strike back? One of the elders immediately came to his senses. He raised his voice in a chorus of insults. Though his words were crude, they served to vent the deep-seated resentment he had harbored for so long. More and more elders joined the fray, directing a barrage of vitriol at the female cultivator. Her chest heaved with violent indignation. Her face turned ashen and she was left utterly speechless. Once the crowd had finished their verbal assault, you turned your gaze back to Tushin. Little girl, I, the family head, have come personally to propose this union. Will you marry him? Tushin, hiding behind her master's back, gave a quick and subtle nod. The female cultivator instantly erupted in fury, screaming, I will not allow it. You shrugged and looked at Tushin. I am the head of the Yi family. The first reward is the honor of marrying Shangsu Hanyue. What do you think? Duhin's eyes brightened. Stealing her resolve, this disciple agrees. Master, I wish to leave the sect. The female cultivator was consumed by rage, raising her hand to strike Duhin with a stinging slap. With a sharp sound, you reached out and gripped her arm from a distance. She was unable to move even an inch. You motioned toward Duhin with a tilt of your chin. Are you not coming over? Are you waiting to be beaten? Duhin hurried to hide behind you. The female cultivator's face turned livid as she cursed you for stealing her disciple. Shameless, you replied with a faint smile. What do you mean by stealing? If I truly intended to pillage, you would not have so much as a thread left to your name. She spat towards you in defiance. With a flick of your finger, you sent the saliva flying straight back at her. A surge of frigid chi instantly invaded her body, freezing her where she stood. Duhin immediately performed the 3 prostrations and 9 kowtows. This disciple pays respects to the master. The matter was settled and the entire hall erupted into hushed whispers. The elders of the Yi family gathered together, muttering under their breath, The last time we all came here together, we were berated and accomplished nothing, yet you finished it in a single visit. Someone murmured, I think I understand now. It is because the patriarch is powerful and domineering enough. That is why he succeeded. Qian Yun let out a soft chuckle. You are all wrong, it is about strength. With enough power, one can do whatever one pleases. Elder Xiangsu did not join the conversation. Holding his son with one hand and Duhin with the other, his eyes grew red with emotion. For the sake of this marriage, he had bowed his head countless times and endured endless humiliation, yet remained powerless. To see it fulfilled so easily today brought him a profound realization. With strength, one truly can do as they wish. Shangsu Hanyue led Duhin forward and knelt directly before you. Shangsu Hanyue wishes to take the patriarch as his foster father and begs for the patriarch's acceptance. You wagged your finger dismissively. If you wish to be my foster son, you must at least reach the body integration realm. Otherwise, you would bring shame to my name. I will dedicate myself to my cultivation, and one day soon I shall become the patriarch's foster son. You nodded with satisfaction, turning to look at the whispering elders. A smile tugged at the corners of your mouth. At last, you could see a change in these people. You turned to Elder Q and said with a smile, Elder Chu, I heard your father is in need of a top-grade life-prolonging elixir. Today, this venerable one shall secure it for you. Elder Cow trembled in shock, rushing forward to prostrate himself upon the ground. If the family head can obtain this elixir for me, I vow to serve you with unwavering loyalty from this day forth, without a single thought of betrayal. You gave a firm nod, instructing Elder Tuong to escort them back first and begin the wedding preparations immediately. Prepare the banquet. Come to think of it, this venerable heritage such a celebration. I find myself quite curious. Elder Tuong beamed with delight, nodding fervently as you led the others away. As you departed the Fang Yun sword sect, a single leaf flew back toward the main hall like an arrow released from a bow, erupting in a thunderous explosion. The foul-mouthed female cultivator from moments ago had her physical body frozen solid before shattering into 1,000 fragments. Toward those who dared insult the Deep family, you would never show a shred of mercy. The scene shifts. In the blink of an eye, you have led the elders to the mountain gate of the Ye Huangtian elixir sect. This sect is renowned for its medicinal pills. They are your next target. To secure resources for the Deep family, you spoke with a voice of command. With a low roar, your spiritual essence surged through your voice, echoing throughout the entire sect. Sect master of the Ye Huangtian elixir sect, come forth and face me. Arrogance, utter arrogance. Instead of humbly pleading for a life-prolonging pill, you intended to seize it by force? Standing beside you, Elder An's heart raced, yet he harbored no objections. His eyes held only a sense of profound anticipation. 3 days ago, he had come personally to beg for medicine, only to be insulted and driven away. Now you would reclaim the dignity he had lost, and you would do so with interest. Before long, the sect master of the Ye Huangtian elixir sect arrived, treading through the air in pristine white robes. Holding a folding fan with an elegant air, he bowed toward you. So, you are the new family head of the Deep clan. Deep replied, nodding coldly with your arms crossed. I wonder what business brings you to my sect. You extended your hand, your tone leaving no room for negotiation. I want the finest life-prolonging pill your sect possesses. It would be wise not to be difficult. The sect master's expression darkened as he snapped his fan shut. To demand such a thing is to defy the will of heaven. You interrupted him, the sound of your knuckles cracking echoing in the air. I wonder why have my hands become so restless. In my experience, my fists are only soothed once they have drawn blood and crushed the opposition. Perhaps I shall borrow your life to ease the itch. The sect master's heart leapt into his throat. He reflexively recoiled, and through gritted teeth he withdrew a jade vial from his storage bag. For 100 years, the sect has focused its entire strength, only to refine these 3 life-sustaining pills. If you want them, take them. You receive the medicinal pills, casually tossing them to Elder Q behind you. Your gaze grows even colder. Something is not right. He possesses the strength of the mid-stage void refinement realm. Even if he were no match for you, he should not be so paralyzed that he lacks the courage to resist, only capable of spouting nonsense about the heavenly Tao. You stare him down, your voice icy. If you do not reveal the truth of what lies within, I will annihilate your entire sect. The sect leader lets out a long sigh, raising his head to shout, If you wish to destroy us, then do so. My alchemist sect has always performed good deeds and accumulated merit, bringing blessings to countless commoners. If you destroy my sect, retribution will surely find you. You let out a cold sneer. Truly, the minds of those in this world are not sane. The enemy is at the gates, yet instead of fighting to the death, or begging for mercy, they only babble about heavenly retribution. You turn to the elders behind you, your voice sharp and commanding. Do you still wish to be such foolish people? He possesses the power of the mid-stage void refinement realm. Had I not intervened, he could have saved at least 30% of his disciples, but because of that ridiculous heavenly mandate, he simply waits for death with his hands tied. How similar he is to you all. Previously, when I suppressed you, you did nothing but sigh and blame the heavens instead of taking action. Now open your eyes and look at Xuan Sheng. The elders remained silent. They had just witnessed you settle Elder Shangsu's marriage, and helped Elder Q obtain the life-sustaining pill. With such tangible benefits laid out before their eyes, if they were to still deny your path, it would be a betrayal of their own consciences. Elder Q was the first to step forward, kneeling on one knee, his voice resonant and sincere. Such foolishness, I shall never partake in it again. Following the family head is the only way to a future. Get out. From this day forth, I only place my trust in the family head and absolute strength, one man declared, being the first to voice his allegiance. The hesitation in the eyes of the remaining elders instantly transformed into a burning fervor. The sect leader of the Ye Huangtian sect, however, remained defiant. I admit you are powerful. You possess the strength to wound many, but in this vast world there will always be those you cannot eliminate. There will always be someone who stands up to seek justice for my death. No content to translate. You threw your head back and laughed toward the heavens. At least within the borders of this Yuzhou, I, Ye Huangtian, my Yi family is peerless. You mere ants should focus on begging the heavenly Tao for mercy. With a flick of your fingers, flying swords filled the sky, condensing out of the void. In the blink of an eye, they pierced through the sect leader's body. You intentionally avoided his vitals, leaving him heavily wounded and teetering on the brink of death. Keeping him alive by a mere thread, you crouched before him with a cold smile. Well? Do you hear the heavenly Tao offering you any comfort? Or does it simply believe you have lived long enough? The sect leader's body was drenched in golden liquid. Though he remained tight-lipped and silent, his hands moved with practiced reflex to retrieve medicinal pills from his spatial ring to sustain his life. You let out a faint smile. It seemed he already had his answer. You stood up and turned your gaze toward the elders, whose eyes were now glowing with intensity. Your expression darkened, no content to translate. With such pathetic cultivation, do you truly expect me to resolve your trivial troubles every single day? Lacking strength yet possessing such thick skin, do you believe this venerable one has nothing better to do? As soon as those words were uttered, the elders dispersed immediately. The family head is correct. By the heavens, we must reclaim every ounce of our past humiliation today. Who will join me in making grand move? At this very moment, the elders of the Ye family underwent a complete transformation. With tangible benefits before their eyes and true power within their grasp, they fully embraced your doctrine. From now on, strength was the only thing that mattered. You glanced at the sect leader who was still gasping for air, no content to translate, struggle well to stay alive. Remember today's wretched state. When you finally possess the strength for vengeance, I will not hesitate to grant you a fair duel. Having spoken, you took the elder's seal and turned to leave, beginning the journey back to the Yi family. Elder Chu asked cautiously, "Family head, how should we deal with these descendants of the clan? If there is any task that requires this old man's assistance, please do not hesitate to command me." At this moment, he looked at the trembling younger generation of the clan, his gaze burning with frustration at their lack of resolve, looking exactly like the gaze you had fixed upon them at the beginning, an identical reflection. You smiled, granting him an opportunity to prove his worth. The minor Wen Dao sect frequently raids our mountain gate to plunder and steal, accumulating a long history of grievances with our clan members. Go and settle this matter. Elder Q was instantly overjoyed, clasping his hands as he accepted the order. As you command, I shall depart immediately. Watching his departing figure, you nodded slightly. The board was finally set. You were no longer a lone wolf. You now had your first group of loyal followers united in heart and mind. And for all of this, at least half of the credit must be attributed to that maid. It was she who had enlightened you. Relying on sheer pressure alone was insufficient. They must also be given a taste of the benefits. The reward of 3 days of close service was no longer enough. It had to be 3 days and 3 nights. Time passed in a flash, and for the next 4 days and nights, you remained in your quarters, providing the maid with meticulous guidance. On the 5th day, the moment you appeared in the great hall, the elders, who had been waiting for 4 straight days, immediately swarmed forward, surrounding you so tightly that not even a drop of water could pass through. Patriarch, you have finally finished your rest. What is our next move? You old geezer, didn't you say 4 days ago that the Patriarch's actions would invite a lightning strike from the heavens? I was mistaken, purely mistaken. Why bring up the past now? Even if lightning were to strike, this old man would personally block it for the Patriarch. The crowd was boisterous and lively, no longer showing any of their former timidness or restraint. They had come to understand your temperament. You never minded such light-hearted banter, caring only about whether they could produce results. You let out a yawn and casually called for Elder Tusu. Elder Tusu immediately stepped forward and knelt on one knee. Your subordinate is here. I await the Patriarch's command. When is your son's wedding being held? Elder Tusu was momentarily stunned before hurriedly replying, "It is scheduled for an auspicious day next month, 10 days from now." You nodded, then called for Elder Q once more. Elder Q immediately stepped forward, falling to his knees and kowtowing deeply before you. My father has fully recovered and gained 15 more years of longevity. I thank the family head for saving his life. You waved your hand impatiently. Such sentimental words were unnecessary as everything remained within your calculations. The Yi family was finally becoming useful, yet you now faced a new dilemma. The Tianfeng dynasty was too distant. A long-distance expedition would be meaningless at this stage. Finding a worthy opponent to test your full strength was proving difficult. Growing frustrated, you gestured for a subordinate. Yunner stepped forward immediately. Family head, please give your command. Construct a new palace for my residence. My current courtyard is far too small and dilapidated. Have the entire Yi family begin a complete renovation. If resources are lacking, you know what must be done. Choose your targets at will. Only summon me if the situation becomes unmanageable. With that, you stood up. Once the wedding is concluded, I shall reveal the next phase of my plan. As you rose, the maid emerged from the back hall. Her legs trembled slightly, and a lingering blush still graced her cheeks. She appeared frail, her steps unsteady as she moved. Passing by her, you remarked indifferently, "Get some rest. Any more, and you might just break." Her face flushed crimson instantly. The elders in the hall erupted in playful banter, making the atmosphere quite lively. As she leaned against the wall to return to her room, the joy on her face gradually faded into a sense of hollow disappointment. She had imagined that over the past 4 days, she had become special to you, but your cold words had swiftly dragged her back to reality. This was nothing more than a simple reward. As she lowered her head, your hand suddenly appeared before her eyes. In your palm lay a blood-circulating key-gathering pill and a manual for the purple chi celestial technique. This medicinal pill will help your body recover. As for this cultivation manual, it is the most suitable technique I can provide for you. Cultivate diligently. Do not end up like that profound iron body, becoming nothing more than a disposable toy. The maid received the gifts with trembling hands, her eyes welling with tears as she hurriedly kowtowed. I obey, young master. This servant will surely dedicate herself to cultivation. You gave a faint smile and waved her off before turning to leave. You intended to survey Yu province and find a worthy adversary for the Yi family. Though the Yi family's mindset had begun to shift, their actual strength and combat experience were still severely lacking. Such things could only be forged on the battlefield. In your previous life, you cultivated in solitude until you reached the status of a supreme being. Yet on the very day of your ascension, you were besieged by the powers of the three realms. There is no content to translate. You wish to forge a Yi family that will stand resolutely behind you, even if it means opposing the entire world, helping you bridge that narrow, fragile gap. As the night breeze brushed past, you suddenly jolted awake from your dream. Your gaze as sharp as a blade as it swept across the room, only to see the handmaid curled up on a chair, her brow furrowed as she pondered every single word of that obscure cultivation manual, completely engrossed in her study. In 9 full days, she had only managed to turn the first page. You let out a sigh of relief. The great battle where you were besieged by the three realms in your past life, even now, the memory brings only a sense of exhilaration. You walked to her side and casually pointed out the key insights within the manual. The purple chi in this technique is the energy of the purple mansion. What is the purple mansion? Surely you understand it by now. The handmaid was startled awake and hurriedly rose to brew tea for you. Her movements were clumsy and flustered, but you were in no rush. Once she had finished, you spoke indifferently. That is enough for today's lecture. I shall return tonight. If you have any doubts, you may ask then. You were just about to leave. The maidservant suddenly looked up, her eyes filled with bewilderment as she asked cautiously, "Young master, what is it that you need me to do for you? What could I possibly do for you?" She lowered her head, her voice growing increasingly faint. She knew that no matter how she cultivated, she could never catch up to your great perfection realm in this lifetime. In terms of beauty, she was no match for the likes of Lin Shu or Ling Guzi. Compared to people like Lu Yan, she could not fathom what she could possibly offer you. You remained silent for a long time before suddenly letting out a light, relieved laugh. I once fought alone against all living beings of the three realms, falling short of victory by only a hair's breadth. I hope the Yi family, nurtured by my own hands, can help me bridge that final gap. Having said that, you departed immediately. The maidservant suddenly raised her head and stared at your receding back. The confusion and shock in her eyes dissipated, leaving behind only a resolve so firm she seemed ready to face death itself. In the days that followed, you traversed every inch of the Yi family estate, occasionally offering a few words of guidance to the Yi family disciples, effortlessly bestowing spirit stones that held no value to you, winning over the hearts of the people bit by bit. You wanted them to know that you were not a cold-hearted man devoid of sentiment. Following you would bring them true, tangible rewards. The scene shifts to Kaichong City, 300 miles away. Luyan sat alone in a tavern, drinking to soothe her troubled heart. It had been several days since she fled from the Yi family. Though she had only traveled 300 miles, whenever she encountered an injustice on the road, she could not help but intervene. To punish evil and promote good, this was the duty of a heroine etched into her very bones. Yet the most vital task in her heart was to reach the Tianfeng dynasty and denounce you, the ruthless monster who slaughters without batting an eye. Suddenly, a wave of commotion broke out within the tavern. "Hurry, leave now. That ruthless man is coming. Run before you cross paths with him." In an instant, the tavern's patrons scattered and vanished. Only Lu Yan remained, draining cup after cup of wine, waiting for the individual everyone spoke of with such terror. With a loud crash, the tavern doors were thrown wide. A man dressed in azure robes stepped inside. He casually tossed a few coins onto the table. "Bring me a jar of wine and some side dishes." The waiter wore a look of utter helplessness. With a piercing gaze, the man scanned the room before his eyes settled on Lu Yan. He sat directly across from her. "Why haven't you fled?" "Woman, you have piqued my interest." Lu Yan frowned and questioned him. "I heard the others say that you are the ruthless one of this region." Before the man could respond, the waiter slammed a jar of wine onto the table with an irritated thud. "Is he not ruthless indeed? He orders a single jar of wine and devours 10 of our complimentary side dishes, making a nuisance of himself and begging for drinks everywhere he goes." The man immediately began drinking, slamming the table as he argued with the waiter, insisting that the snacks were complimentary. "By what right do you deny me?" Witnessing this scene, Lu Yan was left utterly dumbfounded. How could such a man be called ruthless? She let out a cold laugh. "Forget it, I see now that you are no ruthless man." The man paused, and without hesitation he nodded. "Indeed, that is what they call me. Is there a problem?" Lu Yan then vented all the pent-up bitterness within her heart. "Have you ever seen a truly ruthless man, one who slaughters without batting an eye? A monster who annihilates an entire sect simply because he is displeased? Have you ever seen such a man? Have you ever seen a truly cruel man, one who imprisons female cultivators in dungeons to humiliate them at will? Since you have done none of these things, how can you dare call yourself cruel?" The man stood frozen, lowering his head in silent contemplation for a long while. Suddenly, he cupped his fist toward Lu Yan and spoke. "I am Shen Lian. After hearing your words today, young heroine, I have reached a sudden realization. A lady traveling the cultivation world alone must face many hardships. Do you find yourself in need of a traveling companion? In the arts of combat, I am quite formidable." The waiter rushed over, desperately pleading with Lu Yan. "My lady, I beg of you, please take him with you. Our Kaishuang city can no longer endure his presence." Luyan was already in a rush to reach Tianfeng City. Having a companion with such strength was a fortunate turn of events. She nodded immediately. Very well, come with me to Tianfeng City. Ye Huangtian of the Yi family is the truly cruel one. Only the Tianfeng dynasty has the power to defeat him. Shenlian finally noticed the walking stick in Luyan's hand. Without a word, he leaned down and hoisted her onto his shoulder. Both panicked and enraged, Luyan frantically pinched his shoulder. Put me down, Shenlian, do not cross the line. Shenlian merely shook his head, his pace never faltering. I am a cruel man after all. I have no intention of listening to you. With those words, he suddenly exerted his strength, taking a few swift steps before leaping directly into the sky. We shall arrive at the Tianfeng dynasty by nightfall. As the wind whistled past her ears, Luyan's face turned deathly pale with fear. Only then did she realize that Shenlian possessed the cultivation of a peak body integration stage expert. A journey that should have taken a month would now be completed in a single night. Meanwhile, outside the gates of Tianfeng City, Ye Gucheng arrived, gasping for breath. He had traveled without rest for 10 grueling days, pushing his limits to reach Tianfeng City within the deadline you had set. He had initially assumed this 10-day limit was merely a death ultimatum you had casually declared. But as he stood before the city walls, his mind flashed back to the moment you assigned him this task. He remembered that expression of yours, as if everything was already within your absolute control. Could it be that you had foreseen all of this? As he was lost in thought, a figure streaked across the horizon. It was Shenlian, Ye Gucheng's pupils constricted, a peak body integration stage expert. Moments later, he watched as Luyan rushed toward the city guards. She cried out with urgency, I must request an audience with the sovereign of the Tianfeng dynasty. Ye Huangtian, the patriarch of the treating human lives with contempt and injuring countless commoners, the soldier merely yawned, casually scribbling a note in the records, before indifferently stating, come back tomorrow morning to file your report. They are but a single Yi family, they are nothing to be feared. In that moment, a realization struck Ye Gucheng like a thunderclap, and he finally understood everything. The 10-day deadline you established was a calculated strike against his limits, anticipating that these accusers would swarm in during this exact window. The family head had not fallen into madness. He had attained a profound enlightenment. Every move was within his calculations. Daring not to delay, he immediately sought out an old acquaintance within the imperial court. Under the shroud of night, he requested an audience with the empress of the Tianfeng dynasty. Within the serene rear garden, the Tianfeng empress sat by the water, listening to her servant's report. She gave a calm, composed nod. Summon Ye Gucheng, she commanded. Ye Gucheng bowed deeply, presenting the letter you had written with both hands. Reporting to the Empress, my family head has written a letter and instructed me to deliver it to your majesty. The servant delivered the letter to the Empress. She scanned its contents before casually setting it aside. I am aware of the situation. Relay my word to the Yi family head. He is to handle this matter himself. Ye Gucheng hurriedly expressed his gratitude and bowed as he withdrew. As Ye Gucheng was preparing to thank his acquaintance and depart, he spotted Ye Lingshan rushing toward the Empress's residence. Upon seeing him, Ye Lingshan's eyes lit up and he quickly intercepted him. Elder Gucheng, what are you doing here? Quickly, follow me to present a petition to the Empress. Ye Huangtian has succumbed to demonic possession. Only the intervention of the Tianfeng dynasty can stop him. Ye Gucheng's mind shook. Today was the 12th day of the timeline you had established. He finally realized why you set a 10-day limit for the rewards. Why there were no rewards on the 12th day, and why the consequences thereafter must be borne alone. What was the true meaning behind it all? Ye Lingshan continued his desperate persuasion, urging him to stand as a witness. Ye Gucheng merely spared him an indifferent glance, before offering a polite smile to the great general standing nearby. I apologize for the display, General. This is merely a trivial internal family matter, and nothing more than baseless rumors. The great general nodded in understanding and returned the smile, promising to help preserve the Yi family's reputation before turning to depart. Only then did Ye Gucheng turn his gaze back to Ye Lingshan. With a grim expression, he spoke coldly, give it up. You simply cannot be compared to the family head. Our families and kin all reside within the Yi clan. I am not willing to risk everything on such a gamble. Another 10 days passed, and Ye Gucheng finally returned to the Yi clan estate. But as he reached the main gates, his eyes widened, and he stood frozen in shock. The gates of the Yi clan, once modest and simple, were now resplendent in gold and jade, flanked by two massive stone lions of immense majesty. Upon the clan's plaque, the two great characters for Yi shimmered with gilded brilliance. Looking up from the mountain gate, halfway up the slope, a brand new grand hall had been built into the mountainside. Its imposing presence seemed to command the entire peak. As he stood there dazed, he heard two Yi clan disciples walking toward him. Seeing an elder like him, they merely gave a casual dismissive wave. They didn't even bother with a formal greeting, continuing their conversation as if he weren't there. By the heavens, that wretched woman truly didn't know what was good for her. She was your childhood sweetheart, yet she treated you like a fool to be toyed with. All that talk about male best friends was nothing but a deception. She had long since conspired with those outsiders. I was the one who purged them. If you're not satisfied, then challenge me to a duel. Whoever has the stronger fist shall be the one who is obeyed. Wait, you acted too quickly. I didn't even get a chance to experience what the family head felt that day. Ye Gucheng's mind reeled as he listened. He had only been gone for 20 days, so how had the Yi clan transformed into this? Was this still the same disciplined Yi clan that valued reputation more than life itself? Before he could ponder further, Qian Yun suddenly appeared by his side. He placed an arm around Ye Gucheng's shoulder and said, "The family head spoke. He said it is time for you to return, and he sent me to guide you. Regarding the changes in the Yi clan over the past few days, I will give you a brief explanation. After all, your family is here in the Yi clan. Simply accept the reality, do not argue." Qian Yun led him away, flying directly toward the grand hall at the mountain summit. While recounting the events of the last 20 days, they arrived before the entrance of the grand hall. Your voice resonated from within the hall. "Enter and receive your reward. Once this business is concluded, it will not be too late for you to witness the changes for yourself." Ye Gucheng's heart tightened as he hurried into the great hall. He bowed deeply toward you on the main seat, his etiquette flawless and beyond reproach. The elders within the hall observed his stiff and restrained posture and immediately burst into laughter. "Look, the old fogey from the ancient era has finally appeared. Haha, indeed. What else did you expect? Look at that fearful, uneasy gaze of his." Ye Gucheng was about to send a voice transmission to warn them to restrain themselves, but in a flash, a figure blurred before his eyes. You had already arrived in front of him. You looked at him and spoke, your voice carrying an unquestionable authority. "Well done. What reward do you wish for from this seat?" Hearing Ye Huangtian's question, Ye Gucheng felt a flicker of hesitation. On the journey back, he had learned from Gan Yun that the Ye family was not in any peril at all. On the contrary, because the mindset of the elders and disciples had shifted, the family was flourishing everywhere. After a long moment of contemplation, Ye Gucheng suddenly spoke. "This subordinate has only one question. Does the patriarch wish to lead the Yi family to eternal damnation or to the very peak of existence? If it is to be ruin, I would rather fight the patriarch today and use my death to prove my resolve." You raised an eyebrow, slightly surprised. You had only sent him to deliver a letter, yet this old fellow had apparently gained some profound realization. You gave a faint smile. Your voice was not loud, yet it suppressed the entire hall into a deathly silence. "I intend to ascend to the very peak of this world. The Yi family shall likely follow this seat upon this path. As for how far the Yi family can go, that will depend entirely on your own fortune and destiny. To me, it matters not whether the Yi family exists or ceases to be." As those words fell, Ye Gucheng's entire body trembled. He stared at you for 3 long seconds before bowing deeply once more. "This subordinate understands. I am willing to devote my life to the patriarch's service." You chuckled softly. "Since you have yet to decide on a reward, this seat shall bestow upon you a grand estate. As for the matters of servants and attendants, I shall not interfere. My thanks to the patriarch." He rose and took his leave, stating that he needed a few days to settle the affairs of his subordinates. You waved your hand in dismissal. Once he had departed, you beckoned Gan Yun forward. "How is the task I entrusted to you proceeding?" Patting his chest in assurance, he replied, "Rest easy, patriarch. I have rehearsed those scenes over and over. I guarantee those." He nodded calmly. The emissary of the Tianfeng dynasty was approaching. Whether they come for an open investigation or a covert mission remains unclear. The distance between us is vast. Exhausting the army with such a long journey would yield no benefit. For the time being, we must avoid inciting any conflict. Following that, the scene shifts. 50 miles from the foot of Mount Shuanshan, General Fu Ba of the Hubin led 3,000 winged tiger soldiers, aggressively marching toward the Yi family estate. Within the spirit vessel, Liu Yan was frolicking with Shen Lian. This filled Fu Ba with displeasure, yet he suppressed his irritation. Standing at the vessel's prow, he gazed toward Mount Shuanshan. The architecture of the Yi family was already visible in the distance. "I see no signs of demonic corruption within the Yi family. In such a sacred and blessed land, how could a wicked lineage ever arise?" These words abruptly cut short Liu Yan's playful banter. She rushed to Fu Ba's side in a few swift strides. Pointing toward the village at the base of the mountain, she spoke with urgency. "General, you need not look at the Yi family. One look at the commoners below will tell you everything." Fu Ba glanced back at the silent Shen Lian. Had it not been for this man's presence, Liu Yan's mere nascent soul-stage cultivation would not have even granted her the right to speak to him. With a cold snort, he turned and descended from the spirit vessel. "Then we shall see for ourselves how these commoners live." Upon landing, he immediately restrained his void refinement stage aura. He summoned several peasants who were working in the fields. "I am General Fu Ba of the Tianfeng dynasty. Come forward and answer me." The commoners hurriedly knelt in salutation, wishing the general eternal health and prosperity, which filled Fu Ba with a sense of pride. He got straight to the point. Recently, a heroine reported that the Yi family has fallen into the demonic path, slaughtering commoners and plundering the surrounding lands. "Are you aware of such things?" An elder approached, shaking his head in haste. "The Yi family remains as they have always been. We have heard nothing of them falling into the demonic path." Liu Yan erupted in fury, pointing at the elder and berating him, insisting that he had been bribed by the Yi family. The elder simply gestured with his hands. "I am already at this age. What would I gain by deceiving you? If the Yi family truly bribed me, would I still be living in this dilapidated shack?" His words left Liu Yan speechless, unable to offer a retort. Fu Ba let out a cold laugh, effectively dousing Liu Yan's fiery accusations with the cold truth. "I told you on the way here, the great general's judgment is never flawed. If the members of the Yi family truly committed such atrocities, how could these commoners remain unaware?" Liu Yan stomped her feet in fury, grabbing the old man by his collar and shouting that she had come to save them. However, the old man did not even deign to respond. He merely stated that he was indebted to the Ye family's kindness. He warned them to cease their slander against the Ye family at once. Liu Yan was driven to the brink of madness, turning to Fu Ba and shouting. She claimed these people were either being coerced or were under the influence of a curse. She demanded that he conduct a thorough investigation. Fu Ba's patience instantly wore thin, and he replied with a cold expression. He remarked that it was merely a case of the Yi family's young master having his engagement broken off, the internal details of which are simply unknown to outsiders. My cooperation in this investigation is already a great mercy. If you continue this nonsense, do not blame me for being unceremonious. Liu Yan wished to argue further, but Shen Lian held her back, whispering that since they lacked evidence, they must find proof before taking any further action. Fu Ba could not be bothered to watch their antics any longer. He turned and flew back toward the spirit boat, intending to put on a brief show of duty before returning to report his mission. Yet the moment he landed upon the spirit boat, he noticed a figure standing atop the mast. The man was shrouded in murderous intent, his gaze piercing and cold. His mere presence caused the surrounding atmosphere to grow heavy with pressure. Fu Ba felt a sudden chill in his heart and hurriedly cupped his hands in greeting. I am General Fu Ba of the Tiger Gallop Army from the Heaven Phoenix Dynasty. I do not know who your excellency is. You look down at him, your tone indifferent. I am the young master of the Yi family. My father, Ye Huangtian, sensed the arrival of the Heaven Phoenix Dynasty's army and specially dispatched me to serve as your guide. Fu Ba was momentarily stunned, but the wariness on his face quickly vanished. So, you are that ill-fated lovesick soul Ye Huangtian? A bitter, perfectly measured smile appeared on your face as you descended beside him, remarking that you hadn't expected such trivial family matters to travel so far. Fu Ba let out a boisterous laugh and led you into the ship's cabin, calling for wine and meat to be prepared, eager to share a drink with you. After several rounds of wine, he asked with a hint of intoxication why that woman had ultimately betrayed you. You lowered your head, perfectly portraying an air of hesitation and sorrow. After a long silence, you let out a heavy sigh and recounted how Lin Shuling conspired with the great Supreme Elder to seize the position of family head. You told the entire story from beginning to end, including how she eventually committed suicide out of fear of her crimes. Without adding a single word of exaggeration, you firmly established the image of a devoted man who had been deeply wronged. Upon hearing this, Fu Ba slammed the table in indignation and toasted you with a glass of wine. He cursed that woman for being blinded by greed and self-interest. Ignorant of the truth, you felt nothing but silent contempt for him in your heart. On the surface, however, you merely nodded in agreement. Since the dead cannot testify, the truth was whatever you claimed it to be. He then brought up the names of Liu Yan and Shen Lian. He mentioned how the two insisted the Yi family had fallen into the demonic path. He suggested that you find an opportunity to explain the situation to them. He warned you not to let the Yi family's century-old legacy be utterly destroyed. You offered a faint smile, though a bone-chilling coldness flickered in your eyes as you calmly replied, "Thank you for the reminder." He remained completely unaware that his well-intentioned advice had just signed Liu Yan's death warrant as he continued to chat. He was now convinced that you were nothing more than a heartbroken young master who had been betrayed. Deeming further investigation unnecessary, he decisively feigned a drunken stupor and collapsed onto the table in a deep sleep. You chose not to expose his clumsy acting. It was absurd that a cultivator of the void refinement realm could be intoxicated by a few cups of wine. Did he truly take you for a fool? You stood up calmly, draped a nearby cloak over him, and turned to depart. In the next instant, Fu Ba, who was merely pretending to sleep, felt a sudden, overwhelming paralysis. No matter how he struggled, he could not move an inch. Standing upon the deck of the spirit boat, you swept the area with your divine sense. You had already gauged the strength of the 3,000 winged tiger troops. Even the lowest among them were at the Golden Core realm. Their commander was at the nascent soul realm, while Fu Ba himself had reached the void refinement realm. You raised an eyebrow. It seemed the Heavenly Phoenix dynasty was not entirely composed of fools. They understood that strength was the ultimate priority. Your decision to avoid a direct confrontation for now was indeed the correct one. With a subtle flicker of your body, you vanished from the spirit boat. You glided past the soldiers without them noticing even a ripple in the air. The power of the Great Perfection realm was not something these people could hope to perceive. Meanwhile, in a secluded corner of the forest, Shen Lian pulled Liu Yan aside and whispered, "Have you noticed anything unusual?" Liu Yan's eyes brightened. "Of course I have. But you speak first. Let us see if our thoughts align." Shen Lian pointed toward the fields at the base of the mountain. "Based on my observations, even if only half of the commoners were farming, each person would have to plow nearly 100 acres of land. This is a feat simply impossible for mere mortals to accomplish." Liu Yan nodded quickly and added, "The look in those villagers' eyes is not right." Shen Lian began praising her excessively on the spot. You, having just landed nearby, could hardly contain your laughter. Was that truly all he had to offer? To think that subjective feelings could actually be used as evidence. What gave you an even greater headache was that Shen Lian, a cultivator at the peak of the body integration stage, would actually listen to the words of such a sweet yet foolish girl at the nascent soul stage. You truly could not fathom what it was he sought from her. Did he crave her stupidity? Or perhaps her irrationality? Taking a deep breath, you decided to capture these two nuisances and throw them into the dungeon for interrogation. You extended your palm. A blast of gale-force wind immediately converged and slashed toward the two of them. Shen Lian's expression changed instantly. He grabbed Lu Yan with one hand, leaping high into the azure clouds and fleeing hundreds of miles before finally daring to touch down. Lu Yan was so terrified that she clung tightly to his neck, scolding him in a mix of rage and fear. But as she looked up, she saw you standing not far away, watching them with a faint, mocking smile. Lu Yan flew into a rage, pointing at you and screaming, "It's him, that villain of the Yu family, Ye Huangtian, defeat him at once." Shen Lian, however, turned as pale as a ghost. He understood the power behind that previous strike better than anyone. The strength of the man before him far surpassed his own. His only thought was to escape. But the moment he moved, you had already closed the distance. Lu Yan turned and fled in a fit of anger. You pressed a hand onto Shen Lian's shoulder, rendering him unable to move as cold sweat poured down his forehead. The chasm between the peak of the body integration stage and the Great Ascension stage was far wider than he had imagined. He growled at you. "Do with me what you will, but spare her. She is innocent." You gave a light chuckle. "I promise you, as long as she does not return, I will not seek trouble with her." Just as Shen Lian let out a sigh of relief, he heard Lu Yan's insults echoing from behind. That woman had actually run back on her own. She drew her soft sword and charged straight at you, screaming that she had never feared any villain. You patted Shen Lian's shoulder and spoke in a calm tone. "I didn't even whistle, yet she chose to stay. Since she has returned, our previous agreement is void." Shen Lian's eyes instantly turned bloodshot. He knew he had no chance of victory, nor any possibility of escape. His only remaining choice was to self-detonate, sacrificing centuries of cultivation to launch one final, desperate strike to force you back and send Lu Yan away. A blinding white light flashed suddenly as violent spiritual energy swept outward, but in the next heartbeat, you reached out and clenched your fist. That surge of violent energy, powerful enough to upend half a mountain, instantly became submissive and obedient. Like a snake gripped by its vital point, it could no longer release even a fraction of its former power. Shen Lian's eyes widened, his face filled with utter shock and disbelief. How could this be possible? You didn't even deign to spare him a glance. Raising your hand, you condensed spiritual energy into a long binding rope, instantly capturing Lu Yan, who had already fled several miles away. I admire the courage it takes to attempt self-detonation, but for a mere nascent soul stage woman, it is truly not worth it. Before the words had fully faded, you struck Shen Lian unconscious with a single hand chop and tossed him to the ground. You looked at the struggling Lu Yan, whose mouth never ceased hurling insults and curses. You truly could not fathom what kind of charm this woman possessed to make Shen Lian disregard his own life, but you did not dwell on the thought. You beckoned Qian Yun and the Ye family disciples who had just arrived. Their reaction speed was decent, and ordered, "Capture these two and lock them up. That brat is at the peak of the body integration stage. Confine him within the immortal trapping array. I will interrogate him when I have the time." Qian Yun hastily accepted the order and commanded his men to drag the two captives away. He then approached you, his face glowing with excitement as he rubbed his hands together. "Patriarch, I see that the Tianfeng dynasty is also up to no good. When shall we move to annihilate them? Once they are defeated, the entire province will belong to us. There will certainly be no shortage of resources and treasures." You shot him a brief glance and replied, "I have already spoken of this. To march an army such a distance for such meager gains is unnecessary." He scratched his head sheepishly, intending to persist. But you suddenly remembered something. You spoke up and asked him, "Regarding the plunder from the Tianjin sword sect last time, what were the spoils?" Qian Yun's eyes lit up, and he immediately used spiritual energy to manifest a detailed list. He presented it to you with both hands. You scanned the contents. Your eyebrows rose instantly in surprise. 36 top-grade spirit swords and 3 void-refining stage breakthrough pills. 2 secret realms and 3 abodes belonging to ancient masters. Internally, you lamented such a reckless waste of heaven's gifts. The strongest member of the Tianjin sword sect was merely at the void-refining stage, yet they had been in possession of such an immense collection of treasures. You immediately withdrew the list and gave instructions regarding the various grades of flying swords and pills. Prepare one portion of each and deliver them to my manor. As for those 3,000 tiger soldiers, reward them with some rations as you see fit. Do not delay. Having said that, you turned and flew directly toward the ruins of the Heavenly Heart Sword sect. Medicinal pills and magic treasures can wait, but a secret realm and the abode of a great power, those you cannot afford to delay for even a moment. Having spent most of your past life as a rogue cultivator, you understood this better than anyone. A place like a secret realm is the ultimate treasure ground for any practitioner. As you landed outside the main hall of the Heavenly Heart Sword sect, you saw a youth in white robes kneeling there, burning spirit money in ritualistic worship. Glancing at him, you were somewhat surprised. To reach the mid-stage of the body integration realm at such a young age, his talent was undoubtedly top tier. Coming here to pay his respects, he was clearly a remnant of the Heavenly Heartsword sect. You spoke up suddenly. "Why have you come to this place?" The youth looked up abruptly, pulling a longsword from the ground and glaring at you. "Are you of the Yi family?" You smiled indifferently. "Indeed, I am the patriarch of the Yi family." Ye Huangtian's expression shifted dramatically, filled with doubt. "Is the patriarch of the Yi family not Yi Yan? I have met him before. Who exactly are you?" You spread your hands, looking completely unconcerned. "Eldest son of the Yi family, Ye Huangtian. If you have questions, ask them quickly. Do not waste my time." I am still waiting to claim the treasures left behind by the Heavenly Heart Sword sect. The youth's eyes turned bloodshot in an instant. He gripped his sword tightly, yet he hesitated to strike. He stared at you, enunciating every word. You destroyed my sect. This is the conduct of the demonic path. If I were to harm the Yiffy family because of your actions, then I too would fall into the demonic path. Therefore, I will not fall for your provocations. A ruthless one? You snorted coldly. Your consciousness swept across the foot of the mountain, and indeed, you found the Yi family disciples had been knocked unconscious. You are so soft-hearted. Do you truly intend to reform me through kindness? The youth stiffened his neck. To repay grievance with virtue. That is the way of a gentleman. And a single sentence left him utterly stunned. If you repay grievance with virtue, then with what will you repay virtue? The youth froze on the spot, his mind buzzing, unable to utter a single word for a long time. With a flick of your finger, the long sword he had dropped flew into your hand. You gently stroked the blade's edge before throwing the sword back to the ground in front of him. Repay grievance with justice and virtue with virtue. I am the one who destroyed your sect. Feel free to take up your sword and kill me. If you emerge victorious, I shall harbor not a single shred of resentment. Of course, that is provided you are even capable of wounding me. The youth glanced at the sword on the ground before looking back at you, stubbornly shaking his head. If I were to harm you, I would be no better than a villain, he declared. In an instant, you lost all interest. No matter how great his talent may be, or how high his cultivation level reaches, if he lacks even the resolve to draw his sword for vengeance, then he is unworthy of being called a true powerhouse. This boy poses absolutely no threat to you whatsoever. With a dismissive wave of your hand, you turned and headed toward the back mountain, leaving behind only a single sentence. If you truly wish to challenge me, do not bother with formal challenge letters. They are a nuisance. Come directly to the Yi family estate to find me. Having said your piece, you proceeded deep into the back mountain, locating the entrance to the secret realm that Qianyun had marked. You first condensed a clone to scout the path ahead, and once you confirmed it was safe, your true self stepped inside. The first secret realm was filled with molten lava at every turn. Spanning a radius of 100 miles, it had clearly been derelict for ages. You could only shake your head in disappointment. Such a prime fire attribute secret realm, if used to cultivate fire attribute spirit herbs, would have been an inexhaustible source of wealth, yet it was left desolate. It was a reckless waste of natural treasures. Deciding to take it, you exited the realm and employed a secret technique to pull the entire secret realm into your sea of consciousness. Immediately after, you approached the second secret realm, again sending a clone to scout ahead. Only after ensuring it was safe did you finally enter. You had only taken a few steps when the sound of voices drifted over from a nearby stream. Drawing closer, you discovered it was actually a 10,000-year-old demon azure marrow refining tree. Your eyes lit up. In your past life, even a sapling only half a man's height would have commanded an astronomical price. Yet here it had grown into a gargantuan tree that blotted out the sky. This time, the profits were immense. Without hesitation, you directly claimed this secret realm. With 2 secret realms now in your possession, you were filled with anticipation for the remaining 3 great power abodes. However, upon entering them, your expression turned grim. Inside, there were no cultivation techniques, nor were there any treasures. They were filled only with moral platitudes, such as do not impose upon others what you yourself do not desire. Nothing but useless teachings on heart cultivation and the like. On the spot, you blacklisted these 3 dwellings. Taking the 2 valuable secret realms with you, you returned to the Yi family. You sought out a suitable location to establish and anchor the secret realms. Immediately, you summoned the disciples of the Yi family. You ordered them to enter and manage the secret realms. Preparations were made to cultivate spiritual plants. After all, plundering is merely temporary. To secure long-term resources, one must rely on cultivation and harvesting. Having settled the matters of the secret realms, you summoned Elder Susu. Upon entering the great hall, he bowed deeply and said, "Patriarch, my son's wedding will be held in 3 days. I hope you will grace us with your presence." You nodded, getting straight to the point. "I hear you have a profound understanding of this world's history. I have several doubts I wish to clarify." "Patriarch, please ask, is the most ancient traceable era of this world the same as it is today, where the weak are always deemed to be in the right?" Elder Susu was taken aback. After a long silence, he bowed and replied, "Reporting to the Patriarch, your subordinate does not dare to speak with absolute certainty. But if the historical records are true, ever since the end of the ancient era, it seems it has always been this way. However, current records are isolated accounts. With no supporting evidence, their reliability is not high." Your fingertips tapped lightly on the table, a profound light flashing deep within your eyes. "So it has been this way since the end of antiquity.